Is that SAC of Durban, the senior senator from Illinois, has decided not to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award that was scheduled to be presented at the November 3rd Chicago Archdiocese's Keep Hope Alive celebration. This from a statement by Cardinal Supich yesterday evening. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. That's certainly a victory for faithful Catholics, for the pro-life and pro-family groups that stood up and compelled Dick Durbin to stand down. So Illinois Right to Life and so many others, Jeannie Ives and Breakthrough Ideas, Catholic Citizens, Illinois Family Institute, all the people that stood up and properly decried awarding Dick Durbin a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Chicago Archdiocese as a disgrace, have been vindicated here. Not Supich's decision, of course. No, he's dug in. But Dick Durbin's didn't want the controversy, and there was more controversy, more protests follow. Also, frankly, need to give credit to people like Bishop Thomas Peprocki out of Springfield for his willingness to make the argument and put his name on it in disagreement with the cardinal over this of the conference of this award. It's a reminder of something, that righteous pressure works. Righteous advocacy works. It can even pressure a imperious politician like Dick Durbin, and to a lesser extent, an imperious politician in a cardinal's cloak. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line and text line. That's the good news. The less good news is what Pope Leo had to say about it when he was asked. Leo the 14th, familiar with one Senator Dick Durbin, given his time in Chicago, to be sure. And again, Pope Leo, like Pope Francis, challenging my belief in papal infallibility, to be sure.
I'm not terribly familiar with the particular case. I think that it's very important to look at the overall work that a senator has done during, if I'm not mistaken, 40 years of service in the United States Senate. I understand the difficulty and the tensions, but I think, as I myself have spoken in the past, it's important to look at many issues that are related to what is the teaching of the church. Someone who says I'm against abortion but says I'm in favor of the death penalty is not really pro-life. So someone who says that I'm against abortion but I'm in agreement with the inhuman treatment of immigrants who are in the United States, I don't know if that's pro-life. So they're very complex issues. I don't know if anyone has all the truth on them, but I would ask first and foremost that there be greater respect for one another and that we search together both as human beings, in that case as American citizens or citizens of the state of Illinois, as well as Catholics, to say we need to really look closely at all of these ethical issues and to find the way forward as church. Church teaching on each one of those issues is very clear. Thank you very much.
If it's very clear, then why are you so confused? It is very clear. Then why do you pretend to be confused, if I may, Your Holiness? First of all, look, I'm opposed to the death penalty, but the Catholic Church's teaching until about mid-20th century was in support of capital punishment. I mean, St. Thomas Aquinas found capital punishment to be justified and consistent with honoring the church as punishment for the unjust taking of a life. Okay? So that's fair. Yeah, you're right. The church's teaching is clear. It was for a long time. Now, you can have some honest disagreement over it, as I do with probably most of the people listening in terms of my opposition to capital punishment. But what Pope Leo said is not particularly candid, if I may dare to speak so pointedly in the direction of the Pope. The other matter is the idea that you can be pro-life on the one hand and support the inhumane treatment of immigrants on the other, and so maybe that you're not so pro-life. With all due respect, what are you talking about? Who supports the inhumane treatment of anybody? Supporting the enforcement of immigration law is not supporting inhumane treatment. It's respecting the law. I thought that's what Catholic teaching was as well. You have to respect the secular law, and if you find a secular law that runs afoul of the catechism, then you need to work to change it. Am I confused on that? That sort of middling rhetoric is really disappointing, particularly as sort of one of the first pronouncements from Pope Leo on a charged issue. Oh, and the final thing is, if you want to look at the totality of the record as it pertains to Senator Durbin and his 40 years of quote-unquote service, let's do it, Your Holiness. Because the more you look at it, the worse it gets, at least in terms of any consistency with Catholic teaching. As we discussed when this first bubbled up to the surface, I mean, Dick Durbin supports the transing of kids. He supported marriage redefinition, what Pope Francis called an anthropological regression. So do you really want to go through the totality of the Durbin record in offering some weak tea defense of this affront to faithful Catholics? I don't think you do. Maybe we'll see if we can get Pope Leo on the blower, have a conversation about this. I doubt it. Tom, Blue Island, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, Dan, good morning. If they want to change Catholic views, how about we don't have a pope anymore, where we just have a board, of a group of 10 or 12 where at least their political views aren't brought right out into the open. The idea of a priest not being 100% pro-life is ridiculous. So now we have a Chicago hack politician as a pope. So that's great.
As Thomas Sowell said, the least intelligent form of life is a committee. So no, I don't want to replace the Pope with a committee. And I'm not suggesting that Pope Leo is not completely pro-life. I'm suggesting that he gave a bit of a fork-tongued response to this affront to the church, whether social justice Catholics see it that way or not. It's certainly an affront to catechism, providing a Lifetime Achievement Award to somebody who is so diametrically opposed to core teachings of the church, and really diametrically opposed to natural law. That's Durbin's 40 years of quote-unquote service. Supich, in his extended statement on the topic, I want to make clear that the decision to present him an award was specifically a recognition of the singular contribution to immigration reform and unwavering support of immigrants, which is needed in our day. I support immigrants, too, the ones that are legal, and I certainly support all of the human rights that are owed to all of us and the human dignity that is owed to all of us, of all people, even if they're here illegally. But I don't support people getting to decide what laws they follow and what laws they don't. People deciding when they get to come into this country and under what terms. That's not how it works. And that's what Dick Durbin supports. There's nothing humane or dignified or laudable about Dick Durbin's position on immigration, as with almost every other issue. Supich goes on, as I look back on my 50 years as a priest and 27 as a bishop, I have seen the divisions within the Catholic community dangerously deepen. These divisions harm the unity of the church and undermine our witness to the gospel. Yeah, they do. When you have the leadership of the church, when you have bishops and cardinals and a pope behave in a less than forthright fashion, decide to choose politics over the catechism. Unity with Dick Durbin around what exactly? Cheap calls for unity, cheap warnings of the divisions within the church deepening. Who is deepening them? Those that pick and those in leadership that behave like cafeteria Catholics because of their political interests or their political alignments. That's what Supich has done. As I said, a politician in a cardinal's cloak. Phil in Maryville.
Hey, morning. I went to Lutheran grammar school and Catholic high school. I know a little bit. I'm not fully educated on religion, but, throughout the entire Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, it's basically said that man was allowed to make rules, laws, punishments to keep society safe, so there's no chaos. And they would have these battles between religious battles, and you didn't see these armies turning the cheek and letting themselves be slaughtered. Throughout the entire Bible, if it's coming down to the death penalty, if man makes law that you have to die, God allowed you to make that law. So that's what it boils down to.
Thanks for the call. Let me sum this up very neatly. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and unto God what is God's. What did Christ mean? Acknowledge the legitimacy of secular power, civic obligations, while upholding God's supreme authority. The render unto Caesar part seems to be missing from Pope Leo and Cardinal Supich's understanding. Coming up at 5:38, we'll pick up where we left off yesterday's show. Pete Hegseth's, I don't know, it wasn't maybe Patton-esque, maybe a bit hyperbolic, but certainly a bit of a dressing down, a discussion of the new era. The Department of Defense era is over. The Department of War era is in. It has begun. What does that entail? 5:38. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 64 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. We'll see clouds decrease throughout the day and then sunshine and 74 this afternoon. Governor J.B. Pritzker says the 25th Amendment should be invoked to remove the president from office, saying, quote, there is something genuinely wrong with this man. Those remarks came after President Donald Trump suggested that cities like Chicago be used as, quote, training grounds for our military. The governor continued by stating that, quote, it appears that Donald Trump not only has dementia set in, but he's been copying the tactics of Vladimir Putin, sending troops into cities, thinking that there's some sort of proving ground for war, or that indeed there's some sort of internal war going on in the United States, is just frankly inane, and I'm concerned for his health. News this hour sponsored by Audible's Romance Collection. It has something to satisfy every side of you. Fall for a brooding duke, dive into a steamy romantasy series from Sarah J. Maas, or find the perfect rom-com from Lily Chu. Start listening free when you sign up for a 30-day trial at audible.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next.
Join AM 560 on Thursday, October 2nd in Glen Ellen for a conservative conversation, an evening of insight, inspiration, and ideas on how conservatives can unite around shared values to advance a common agenda. Speakers will include Pastor Lorenzo Sewell of 180 Church in Detroit, Jeannie Ives, and John Anthony, with each bringing a unique perspective on faith, policy, and community leadership. Get your tickets today at 560theanswer.com/conversation. That's 560theanswer.com/conversation.
Hi, Dan Proft here. Data shows that boys make up more than 1/3 of those exploited in the sex trade. However, there are virtually no services available to male victims and survivors of trafficking and exploitation. They are often overlooked, ignored, and left without support. For 35 years, Emmaus has been on the front lines of an issue most of us can hardly imagine, helping men and boys in Chicago escape the nightmare of human trafficking and rebuild their lives. On Friday, November 1st, you're invited to attend an unforgettable evening at the Emmaus 35th Anniversary Gala at Fisherman's Inn in Elburn, Illinois. Together, they'll celebrate faith, freedom, and restoration with a beautifully catered dinner, an inspiring program, and a silent auction, all to support the mission of rescuing and restoring survivors. This is your chance to do something that truly matters. Reserve your seat today, or if you can't attend, make a life-changing donation at streets.org. That's streets.org. Emmaus is restoring lives. Let's help them keep going. Visit streets.org.
Sean Thompson here, and I'm with attorney Bert Hochberg from the law firm of Schiller, Ducanto, and Fleck. We're talking about divorce arbitration. This is not really a new, or is it a new, innovative way to go through divorce?
Arbitration has been around for decades. It's completely legit and available to resolve divorce cases. The litigants and their lawyers sign an arbitration agreement. They identify what the issues are, and we set up dates, and we determine what experts and witnesses there may be. Arbitration is a hearing, a trial that is intended to finish a case efficiently with limited appeal, with a binding decision, and it's confidential, so it has some great characteristics.
I think it's a unique alternative to divorce. For more information, please visit sdflaw.com and type Bert Hochberg into the search box. That's sdflaw.com or call direct 773-255-6150.
If you want thick, healthy, gorgeous hair, then you need Hair Volume from New Nordic. Available online at Amazon and NewNordicUSA.com or in the hair care aisle at your local CVS.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will be warm with sunshine filtering through high clouds, reaching a high of 77. Tonight, expect mostly cloudy skies with a low of 59. Tomorrow, anticipate very warm conditions as clouds gradually clear for some sunshine with a high of 83. On Friday, temperatures will soar, nearing the record of 91 from 1954 under abundant sunshine with a high of 89. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So we ended the program yesterday when Trump had just started addressing the assembled military brass in Quantico. This was after Pete Hegseth gave 45 minutes of distillation of what the Department of War culture will mean for all the branches of the military. The Department of War. Department of Defense is reactive. That's a reactive era. Department of War is this kind of era.
From this moment forward, the only mission of the newly restored Department of War is this: warfighting, preparing for war and preparing to win, unrelenting and uncompromising in that pursuit. Not because we want war. No one here wants war. But it's because we love peace. We love peace for our fellow citizens. They deserve peace, and they rightfully expect us to deliver it. Our number one job, of course, is to be strong so that we can prevent war in the first place. The president talks about it all the time. It's called peace through strength. And as history teaches us, the only people who actually deserve peace are those who are willing to wage war to defend it. That's why pacifism is so naive and dangerous. It ignores human nature and it ignores human history. Either you protect your people and your sovereignty, or you will be subservient to something or someone. It's a truth as old as time.
And if that be the focus, then all the identitarian politics that were played under the last administration and under the first two terms of the last administration, well, that has to end. And it will. I mean, it's not a new message, but it was a pointed message, particularly given the audience, and it was expansive in its standard setting. I mean, it was impressive. I had my questions about Hegseth as defense secretary when he was nominated, but yesterday was a pretty outstanding performance. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line and text line.
This administration has done a great deal from day one to remove the social justice, politically correct, and toxic ideological garbage that had infected our department, to rip out the politics. No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions. No more debris. As I've said before, and will say again, we are done with that.
Yeah, so in other words, Generals Milley and Lloyd Austin will not be returning, in case anybody was wondering. I mean, just one thing after the other. Of course, a lot of attention has been given to lines like this about the fitness standards that will be abided under this Department of War.
If the Secretary of War can do regular, hard PT, so can every member of our joint force. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. So whether you're an airborne ranger or a chairborne ranger, a brand new private or a 4-star general, you need to meet the height and weight standards and pass your PT test.
Chairborne ranger.
And as the chairman said, yes, there is no PT test. But today, at my direction, every member of the joint force at every rank is required to take a PT test twice a year, as well as meet height and weight requirements twice a year, every year of service. Also today, at my direction, every warrior across our joint force is required to do PT every duty day. Should be common sense. I mean, most units do that already.
Look, just like Ox, for the same reason Ox joined the military, Pete Hegseth wants to create lean, mean fighting machines.
You might have noticed I've got a slight weight problem.
No.
Yeah, I do.
No.
Yeah, I do. Anyway, I went to this doctor, and he told me I swallowed a lot of aggression, along with a lot of pizzas. Pizzas. I'm basically a shy person. I'm a shy guy, and he suggested taking one of these aggression training courses. You know, these aggressive training courses like EST, those type of things. Anyway, it cost $400. $400 to join this thing. Well, I didn't have the money. And I thought to myself, join the Army. It's free. So I figured, while I'm here, I'll lose a few pounds. And you got what, a 6 to 8 week training program here? A real tough one? Which is perfect for me. I'm gonna walk out of here a lean, mean fighting machine.
Exactly. And he's gonna turn candy asses like John Candy, pun intended, into lean, mean fighting machines. Tony in Downers Grove.
Yeah, Dan, that's pretty funny, actually, because I can't see a 65-year-old general doing chin-ups, but hey. But overall, Stephen Bucci made the comment the other morning that he didn't really know how this was going to go over and if it was going to be the right message. And, in big organizations, you bring all people together, or in a lot of them, especially if you're in a sales conference, you're bringing everybody together and you're giving the same message. And if you want to then meet with your heads of departments separately, you can do that. And so I didn't see a problem with this. The left, of course, is going to compare it to the Third Reich, but I thought it was a good message. So here we go.
Thanks for the call, Tony. Mike in Union.
Hey, Dan, it sounds like a speech that Pope Leo should have gave, standing up for truth and not tickling people's ears and getting everything in order. I just find it so hilarious.
100%. Thanks for the call, Mike. Yeah, good comparison. Pope Leo could take a lesson or two from Secretary of War Hegseth. Just more on this because it was just so enjoyable. It was, gosh, you want to send Pete Hegseth into every Fortune 500 company in America, don't you?
This also means grooming standards. No more beards, long hair, superficial individual expression. We're going to cut our hair, shave our beards, and adhere to standards. Because it's like the broken windows theory of policing. It's like when you let the small stuff go, the big stuff eventually goes. So you have to address the small stuff. This is on duty, in the field, and in the rear. If you want a beard, you can join special forces. If not, then shave. We don't have a military full of Nordic pagans. But unfortunately, we have had leaders who either refuse to call BS and enforce standards, or leaders who felt like they were not allowed to enforce standards. Both are unacceptable. And that's why today, at my direction, the era of unprofessional appearance is over. No more beardos. The era of rampant and ridiculous shaving profiles is done. Simply put, if you do not meet the male-level physical standards for combat positions, cannot pass a PT test, or don't want to shave and look professional, it's time for a new position or a new profession.
Zing. Yeah. Okay. Beardos. Beardos, Chairborne Rangers. He had some fun, lingo to share with the military, which is a institution all about the lingo. It reminded me that that whole riff there reminded me of the John Wooden story about Bill Walton, which I've told before. You probably heard. No facial hair if you wanted to be on UCLA's basketball team. Bill Walton comes back and got a beard, from summer hiatus, and he's got a beard. And this is, in the hippie era, and Walton was a bit of a hippie dippy. And John Wooden says to him, what's with the beard, Bill? You know the rules. And I think this was his sophomore year. He had already been player of the year in college basketball the year prior. Of course, they won a championship. It's all John Wooden did. And he said, this is just me expressing myself. That superficial individual expression that Hegseth referenced, that's a very good phrase as well. Superficial individual expression. So this is me expressing myself, Coach Wooden. And Coach Wooden said, that's great, Bill. I certainly support people expressing themselves. Everybody has a right to express themselves. And let me tell you something else. We're really going to miss you on the team. That was basically the Hegseth message yesterday. And one thing after the other, Wall Street Journal opining on this, too, made a point. Hegseth told generals that U.S. military standards, quote, must be uniform, gender neutral, and high. What's remarkable is that this message about military culture probably needed to be delivered. Something that we have come to understand about our military, but which was undermined in the 3 terms of Joe Obama. The Biden era focus on identity politics spread inside the military as it did broader society, often to the detriment of merit and high standards. Yeah, you don't say. Tom and Oswego.
Morning, Dan. I drove for United Parcel Service in the 80s, and I'll tell you, it was sort of pattern after the military. Every morning we had a meeting, and if your face was not cleanly shaven, there was a razor upstairs, and you went and shaved. Your hair couldn't touch the back of your collar. The sideburns couldn't come below halfway, by your ears. Your shoes had to be polished. They were very strict in the 80s. Now, I see that they've relaxed that a little bit because I see the drivers driving around. But it really taught me a lot about discipline. And every time I commented about my time at UPS, I always said it was like the military. And I really enjoyed it.
Thanks for the call, Tom. Well, remember Ross Perot at EDS? He was very strict with dress code, no facial hair, too. And this generated some notoriety when he was tilting at windmills running for president. And it was sort of at the sort of when I think that culture started to change is when Ross Perot was ridiculed for that. He was too idiosyncratic, too top down. And, everybody needs to be free to chart their own course, even in an organization, even to the detriment of the organization, even if it runs afoul of the organization's ethos and it dilutes the efficacy. And That's what Pete Hegseth is talking about. Absolutely. And I think you'll find a lot of the best-run companies in the country, the big ones and the small ones, have this sort of mission focus and require this sort of discipline. It may not be as hard-edged as what you're hearing from Hegseth, but this is a different institution. This is the military. But in terms of the larger point about culture and standards and uniformity and mission focus, hard to argue. The people that are arguing, or the people that are aghast at what Pete Hegseth had to say, are people who think that our armed services should be another one of their little playthings where they can do some social engineering and cultural experimentation. And he's basically saying, nope, not happening. And this was a favorite. I got to get to this one. It's too bad he is no longer with us, because R. Lee Ermey is welcome back as a drill sergeant.
We will not lose warfighters because we failed to train or equip them or resource them. Shame on us if we do. Train like your warriors' lives depend on it, because they do. To that point, basic training is being restored to what it should be: scary, tough, and disciplined. We're empowering drill sergeants to instill healthy fear in new recruits, ensuring that future warfighters are forged. Yes, they can shark attack, they can toss bunks, they can swear, and yes, they can put their hands on recruits. This does not mean they can be reckless or violate the law, but they can use tried and true methods to motivate new recruits, to make them the warriors they need to be. Back to basics at basic as well.
Yeah, that HR complaint department is going to be in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, sort of like where the complaint department is at Bobolink, if you've ever played there, in the middle of a lake. So this is back in vogue.
Do you mean to tell me that you cannot do one single pull-up? You are a worthless piece of shit, pile. Get out of my face!
Maurice and Berwyn.
Yeah, I'll make it quick, Dan. I said this before. Great sales pitch, wrong salespeople at times. But really, the military, for people I've known, and I did JRTC for 4 years, is people love structure. Structure is great. And Pete is kind of putting it out there, but maybe not saying it correctly. I had a great time. We would have to do everything he's kind of describing. We had fun shining our shoes and putting brasso on things and having to dress up. People thrive in structure. So there's nothing wrong with what he's saying, and having to shave our faces and things like that. Yeah. But the people I know who've done it, it was because they were seeking structure and they couldn't find it in their home environment. And I wish you guys would just sell it that way. All right. But he's on point. Definitely.
Thanks, Maurice. Chet and Lyle.
Good morning, Dan. I think a major statement to Pete Hegseth's leadership is the fact that all the services are now surpassing the recruiting goals.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I agree with that. No, I agree with that. I mean, what I think Hegseth is outlining, maybe some of these staid generals didn't like what he had to say or find it beneath them to have to be lectured by Pete Hegseth. But, yeah, what was the culture? I mean, they've all been there. What was the culture for the last 4 years, pre-Trump and Hegseth, and what is it now? What was the attraction to the military versus what is it now, and why is that? What explains the delta? Not hitting goals and already under Biden recruitment goals, and now surpassing them. Maybe Hegseth, who of course served, has an insight into what motivates young men to serve our country and put their lives on the line for us. Maybe he has an insight there. Maybe he has an insight that even some of the generals who also served our country honorably don't have anymore, have forgotten, have subordinated to political concerns or professional political concerns. I don't know. But, well, those days are over.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer. Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage.
Your local State Farm agent, Anthony DeGrotto, combines good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates. You can combine your home, auto, and life insurance to not only save you money, but give you the peace of mind you've been looking for. Anthony DeGrotto is your go-to agent in Chicagoland. He and his team will work for you to provide the best service you expect at the price you want. Combine your home, auto, and life insurance today. Anthony DeGrotto will help you mix and match things perfectly. His State Farm office is a top pick 2024 Daily Herald Reader's Choice Award winner. He's a proud supporter of Tunnel to Towers and like-minded as you. His State Farm agency is currently looking to add members at their Roselle office. Call Anthony at 847-895-1500 today or visit DeGrottoSF.com. That's DeGrottoSF.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to State Farm underwriting requirements.
If you or someone you love are getting high quotes for dental implants, visit almostfreeteeth.com today. With a medical PPO insurance plan, it's possible to save 90% off on average to be able to smile again. Check if you qualify now at almostfreeteeth.com.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving MyPillow with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss and your gain. MyPillow is offering the Classic Collection for wholesale prices. Only $19.98 for a standard MyPillow. But it gets even better. For a limited time, they're going to offer the entire Classic Collection at wholesale prices. Get queen-size MyPillows for just $24.98. Upgrade to king-size for only $29.98. Get the body pillows for $39.98. And the multi-use MyPillows for only $12.98. So go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY or call 800-489-0201 to take advantage of wholesale pricing and receive $100 in free digital gifts when your order is $75 or more. That's right. Get the standard MyPillow for only $19.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. That number again is 800-489-0201. Promo code LIBERTY.
AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft at 6:06. I will be reminding you to forget anybody who flacked for Joe Biden. Pardon my Kygo there. More interesting dynamics from the Biden administration unearthed through the investigation into the auto pen. We'll have that at 6:06. It's now 6 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
This is a Fox News alert. A government shutdown begins. I'm Dave Anthony.
The only real victim here is the American people. This is so unnecessary and uncalled for.
That's Republican Senate Leader John Thune after the House passed bill that provides 7 more weeks of funding was blocked by Democrats. Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is demanding provisions to extend health care subsidies set to expire at the end of the year.
The vast majority of Americans get those bills. And they're going to say, what the heck are we going to do? We need health care, but we can't afford it.
GOP Senator Rick Scott tells Fox he's frustrated.
If you didn't do your job in business, you didn't get paid. You don't show up and do your job, you don't get paid. Why are we getting paid? We shouldn't get paid if we don't do our job.
But while members of Congress will still get paychecks in the shutdown, other workers providing essential services from law enforcement to the military to airport security will not get paid unless there's new funding. Hundreds of thousands of other federal workers may be furloughed or lose their jobs permanently. President Trump warns Democrats.
We can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them. Like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like.
2 unions representing federal employees have filed lawsuits challenging the president's authority to lay them off. There are 2 natural disasters overseas. An earthquake rocked the Philippines, a magnitude 6.9 shaking, killing at least 69 people. Rescuers are searching for anyone trapped in collapsed or damaged homes and buildings. There's also a frantic search in Indonesia after a school collapsed. At least 91 students still unaccounted for. The 3 have been found dead so far.
Parents
parents are there with more than 300 rescue workers at the Islamic boarding school in Sidoarjo, Indonesia. The collapse happened during afternoon prayers on Monday on a lower floor of a 2-story building where 2 floors were being added, reportedly an unauthorized expansion. Police say the foundation couldn't take the weight of the new concrete being poured. Oxygen, food, and water has been sent through narrow gaps to teenage boys believed to be trapped alive.
That's Fox's Chris Foster. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It is 64 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. Federal agents raided a housing complex in Chicago amid ramped-up immigration enforcement efforts here in the city. Fox's Mike Tomit has more.
They had developed information that criminal, illegal immigrants had taken the place over. So a joint operation with the FBI, ATF, Border Patrol, and ICE brought in federal manpower to take control of the apartment. More than a dozen were detained. At least one has a tattoo commonly associated with the Tren de Aragua gang. The detainees were taken to the ICE processing facility in Broadview, Illinois, which has now become a flashpoint for riots and a talking point for opponents of Operation Midway Blitz.
Meanwhile, President Trump doubled down on the reasons for the ICE facility detainments.
Last week they had 11 people murdered, 44 people shot. The week before that they had 5 people murdered, 28 people shot. Every weekend they lose 5, 6. If they lose 5, they're considering it a great week. They shouldn't lose any.
The joint employers representing Illinois companies and workers have released a statement after the state's AFL-CIO announced it would be withdrawing from the agreed bill process. The group say the agreed bill process sets the standard for collaboration on complex issues for more than 4 decades. The joint employers say that they are disappointed that organized labor has chosen to lean into the politics of division. And a woman was transported to the hospital yesterday afternoon following an accident outside Soldier Field along the Chicago lakefront. According to reports, an SUV crashed into a wall in a loading dock outside the stadium. Officials are continuing to investigate that accident. No word on the woman's condition. News is a service of almostfreeteeth.com. Overpaying for dental implants is over. If you have a Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO or FEP, you could save 90% off on average to get your smile back. Learn more and check if you qualify at almostfreeteeth.com. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Join AM 560 on Thursday, October 2nd in Glen Ellen for a conservative conversation, an evening of insight, inspiration, and ideas on how conservatives can unite around shared values to advance a common agenda. Speakers will include Pastor Lorenzo Sewell of 180 Church in Detroit, Jeannie Ives, and John Anthony, with each bringing a unique perspective on faith, policy, and community leadership. Get your tickets today at 560theanswer.com/conversation. That's 560theanswer.com/conversation.
It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and LifeLock is here with tips to help protect your identity. Use strong passwords, set up multi-factor authentication on your accounts, report phishing, and update your software on all your devices. And for comprehensive identity protection, LifeLock is your best choice. LifeLock not only alerts you to suspicious uses of your personal information, but also fixes identity theft, guaranteed or your money back. So stay smart, stay safe, and stay protected with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com. Use the promo code BECK. Terms do apply.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. It's out of nowhere. Had a stroke. Super hard, obviously, for the whole family, but my dad had life insurance. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com, because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test, just a few health questions. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos, ETHOS, ethos.com/Mike.
If your cash is sitting in a savings account, it's at risk. Old school advice says save more, but today the strategy is broken. When inflation spikes, they print money or cut rates, your dollar shrinks. So do your savings. The solution? Own something real. Physical gold and silver. When the dollar drops, gold and silver prices rise. And with Noble Gold, owning gold is simple. Just visit noblegoldinvestments.com and chat with a specialist. The knowledge is free. The protection is priceless. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. decisions.
I'm Ben Barzita.
And I'm Matt Nadeau, founding partners of Barzita and Nadeau Wealth Management. And after more than a decade on the air, we're excited to be back with our brand new show, Money Hour Radio.
Tune in every Saturday at 1 p.m. on AM 560 as we break down retirement planning, market trends, tax reduction strategies, and our advance and protect investment approach.
It's sophisticated planning, independent analysis, and trusted guidance backed by over 40 years of combined experience.
Join us for Money Hour Radio, Saturdays at 1 p.m. on AM 560.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hatchburg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Doing really good this morning on the Eden inbound. It's going to be 15 minutes from Lake Cook to Montrose. Outbound is 13 minutes. Now, the Kennedy inbound from Montrose to the Burn interchange is 12, but outbound is 25 due to some construction that has just been cleared. The Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office is 15 minutes. Same thing for the outbound side. The Stevenson looking okay. Right now, from the Tri-State to Lakeshore, 21 minutes. Outbound is 17, and the Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn interchange is 15, outbound is 10. There is an accident on Veterans Memorial northbound at Maple Avenue, and 2 left lanes are closed. Traffic is a service of Box Valley Coins. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be warm with sunshine filtering through high clouds, reaching a high of 77. Tonight, expect mostly cloudy skies with a low of 59. Tomorrow will be very warm as clouds gradually clear, allowing some sun to shine with a high of 83. By Friday, temperatures will soar, nearing the record of 91 from 1954 under abundant sunshine with a high of 89. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Let's take a walk down memory lane so all those bad actors from the Biden regime don't get memory hold. This needs to be part of their permanent record. More troubling information, evidence unearthed as part of the AutoPen investigation. Unearthed note cards from the Biden era show the administration detail the names and photos of high-profile Democrats, such as Hillary Clinton, as well as lesser-known individuals for then-President Joe Biden to ostensibly reference during live events. 5 different palm cards, which are hand-sized note cards frequently used by politicians for quick reminders, were uncovered amid an investigation of the National Archive documents related to the administration's use of an AutoPen, this Fox News reporting. 4 of the 5 cards obtained by Fox are stamped with a disclaimer reading, "President has seen," quote unquote, while the 5th card detailing an ABC News reporter's question to Biden during a press conference did not include that stamp. We knew this was happening. This, of course, was discussed at the time. All these prearranged who he's going to call on and what their question's going to be, so he's not caught off guard. Mary Bruce, ABC News. This is one of the note cards. Mary Bruce, ABC News. Question number 3. How do you view the path forward? How do you think about your place in history? Ooh, zingers! The note cards included lists of politicians. Like, this was a Saturday, January 16th greeting list that included the Pritzker family. And there's a picture of Pritzker. There's a headshot of Jelly Belly, a headshot of his wife identifying her, a headshot of his daughter identifying her, a headshot of his son identifying him. Now, family members is one thing, but he needs a picture of J.B. Pritzker to know who J.B. Pritzker is. He needs a picture of frackin' Hillary Clinton to know who Hillary Clinton is. He needs pictures of Presidential Medal of Freedom recipients. He needs a picture of Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington is an actor, director, and producer who in 2000 was named by New York Times as one of the greatest actors of the 21st century, and so on and so forth. He needs pictures, judicial confirmation milestone speech. Picture, Chuck Schumer, he's the Senate Majority Leader. Picture, Dick Durbin, he's a Senate Majority Whip. All these note cards for Biden. And the occasion of this is not that any of this comes as a surprise, but it's to revisit all these people. You want to talk about accountability, not under the law, but under sort of a professional ethos as well as our culture. All these people in the D.C. press corps that suffered no consequences from participating in this, conspiracy to mislead the American people. I mean, and again, we had this discussion so many times because it was so obvious that Biden didn't have the mental acuity for the job. Frankly, even when he was completely cogent and was not in decline, he didn't have the mental acuity for the job. But specifically in terms of neurological decline that incapacitates him, at least for this position. It was not known, but they insisted. And so my response was always, okay, take them at their word. If you believe what they're saying up against what you're seeing, okay, that's your choice. We'll see. Let's put it to the test of the American people. And of course, they ended up failing that test. This conspiracy of fools didn't work out quite as they had hoped. But it doesn't mean that we all shouldn't be reminded. Why does anyone listen to anything that these individuals have to say? Jen Psaki on MSNBC.
I never saw that person, not a single time, and I was in the Oval Office every day, that was on that debate stage. I'm not a doctor. Aging happens quite quickly.
I'm not a doctor. Not the Joe Biden I saw. Not my personal experience. That's what you get over and over again from these politicians, the Ro Khannas and the Westmores, the governor of Maryland, all these people with big aspirations to go to higher office. They've already really exceeded the bounds of the Peter Principle as far as I'm concerned. And all these talking heads. Why do we pay them any mind?
Comparing that guy's mental state, I've said it for years now. He's cogent. But I undersold him when I said he was cogent. He's far beyond cogent. In fact, I think he's better than he's ever been. Intellectually, analytically, because he's been around for 50 years. And, I don't know if people know this or not, Biden used to be a hothead. Sometimes that Irishman would get in front of the reasoning. Sometimes he would say things he didn't want to say. This is... And I don't really, I don't really care. Start your tape right now because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever. Not a close second. And I've known him for years. The Brzezinskis have known him for 50 years. If it weren't the truth, I wouldn't say it.
Right. Truth teller Joe Scarborough. And I know after the election he walked that back a little bit, but not near enough for that sort of moralizing that we were all treated to for 4 years. And particularly at the end when they were trying to prop him up. Kamala Harris. Remember Kamala Harris? She's out there hawking a book right now. Anybody going to ask her about this? Given this latest revelation, latest evidentiary exhibit? Kamala Harris in that Brett Baier interview a few weeks before the election?
You say now
he's unstable. He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable?
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room. and he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people.
There were no concerns raised?
Brett, Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
I understand.
And Donald Trump
but
is.
You talked about it.
And Donald Trump
After George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand. You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump, which is why the people who know him best.
And of course, you know, the sainted Jake Tapper. In 2020, castigating Lara Trump. Jake Tapper now running around with the, you know, the sort of the we should have done more, but we were buffaloed by the people around Joe Biden. This is the same thing that Chuck Todd is doing too, to try to cover their tracks.
No, I didn't. You know, the fact of the matter is, I saw Biden often, but not as often as people seem to think. I saw him, talked to him on the telephone very often, and I never saw anything that I thought was outside of the ordinary.
Yeah, see, that was Jim Clyburn and being interviewed by Jake Tapper. And of course, hey, all that Jake Tapper can do is go on what people like Jim Clyburn, who basically salvaged Biden's presidential bid in 2016 and 2020, I should say, you'll recall, in South Carolina. That's all he can go on. Jim Clyburn misled me, although they won't name names. This was the Laura Trump exchange in 2020.
Every time he comes on stage or they turn to him, I'm like, Joe, can you get it out? Let's get the words out, Joe. You kind of feel bad for him.
How do you think it makes little kids with stutters feel when they see you make a comment like that?
First and foremost, I had no idea that Joe Biden ever suffered from a stutter. I think what we see on stage with Joe Biden, Jake, is very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable
you have
to watch somebody on stage
that's so amazing. It's so amazing to me that
try and figure out an answer.
A cognitive decline.
Well, when you're trying to tell me that what I was suggesting was
I think that you were mocking his stutter.
Yeah,
I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline. I would think that somebody in the Trump family would be more sensitive to people who do not have medical licenses diagnosing politicians from afar. Plenty of people have diagnosed your father from afar, and I'm sure it offends you. Your father-in-law from afar. I'm sure it offends you. You don't have any standing to say.
I'm not diagnosing him. What I'm saying, Jake,
you just talked
is
about
that
a cognitive decline.
That Joe Biden
I have
is
one last
struggling
question for you, Laura. You can't
times on stage, and it's very concerning to a lot of people that this could be the leader of the free world.
Okay.
That is all I'm saying. I genuinely feel
Laura
sorry
Trump.
for Joe Biden.
I appreciate it. I'm sure.
Yeah, the hi-hat. That was another one of the plays that they made for years. The hi-hat. How dare you? You're making fun of his stutter. You're picking on him. You're picking on somebody that's got a challenge that millions of Americans have. They tried that for a while. You recall. You better. But these clips can't be played enough. These people cannot be pilloried enough for their preternatural dishonesty about this and just about everything else. And if CNN and MSNBC and the rest of the media outlets, the legacy media outlets, want to keep them employed, fine. People want to reelect these pathological liars, including here in Illinois. J.B. Pritzker was doing the same thing. Then, well, that's fine. That's the choice. But at least let's make sure that everybody knows what the evidence suggests. You need a medical license to know that somebody who's the president of the United States needs a picture of Hillary Clinton to be reminded of who she is, needs a picture of the Senate Majority Leader, Chuck Schumer, to be reminded of who he is. Make sure he knows. Make sure he recognizes him. Yeah, you need to have passed the boards to make an assertion that this is somebody who is in mental decline. Please. KJP? Allie Mayorkas, officer of the court. Here's KJP, KJP Classic. Where's she been? Oh, yeah, she was on a little book tour, too. I wonder how that went.
And I spent sometimes countless hours with him, whether it's in the Oval Office, whether it's on the road. And I believe, for me, you're asking me my personal opinion, he is sharp. He is on top of things. When we have meetings with him, with his staff, he's constantly pushing us, trying to get more information. And so that has been my experience with this president.
Probing and exacting. A darling of the new Marxist Party and all the same networks. Fake eyelashes spice, Jasmine Crockett.
People tried to talk about the mental acuity of Joe Biden. And as someone who was able to interact with him, I never questioned his mental acuity.
No, of course not. Why would you? George in Naperville, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah, yes, Dan. Did Biden need to carry a picture of Corn Pop so he would remember him?
Yeah, thanks for the call, George. I mean, I could just play these clips all morning long, and I probably should. They need to be distributed time and again. Every opportunity, like yesterday's story with these note cards, every opportunity that presents itself to remind people what those you've just heard and so many more of these apparatchiks for the new Marxist Party did, and you want to believe anything they have to say about government shutdowns or illegal immigration or, ICE, anything and everything they say should be completely discounted. Categorically. Greg in Schaumburg.
Morning, Dan. And to lend even more credence to this, and I don't mean to take you off topic, but let's go back to 2016. The only reason Obama and that whole crossfire hurricane and the whole thing that started with Obama and what started with Hillary is not being discussed is because it's outside of the statute of limitations right now. If that were in play, legitimately in play, even not tangentially due to the Comey situation, they are all in it. And when you look at the root cause behind it,
they were all in it in the
Hillary,
sense that they knew that Biden was in mental decline and they were propping him up and covering for him.
No. I'm making a point that's before the Biden mental decline. That's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to take you off topic. You're talking about the Marxist apparatchiks, that they are and the evil people that they are, and how you can see that as evidence with Biden. But what I'm saying is it's actually worse with Obama and it's worse with Hillary. And if you look at the 2016, evidence there that's starting to leak out with the Comey.
Oh, yeah.
Then you've got every single one of them that when the Democrats and these people look at us and say that they're preserving democracy and 50% of this country is buying into it because they're literally illiterates, they don't listen to your show, they don't listen to anything that has any kind of credibility behind it, they're being fed pablum.
Yeah.
And that's the problem in this country and why we are so divided and why just one last point. When you talk about people getting brainwashed and taking actions that are illegal and deadly, it is the Democrats and it is that whole section of the media that is behind it. That's all I got.
Thanks for the call, Greg. Yeah, I mean, this is a case study that you present to your Trump-hating friend and say, okay, just if this person is capable of it, and I know many are not, if you could just set Trump aside for a second, and can you just answer this question? All these people who present themselves as the vanguard of our democracy, quote unquote, they're the great defenders of the Constitution and America standing as a free country. Is this an example of that? Is this an example of protecting our democracy? perpetrating a fraud on the American people to prop up somebody that didn't have the capacity to be president of the United States, to be the commander-in-chief of our military? Is that what protecting democracy looks like? So clearly, if you believe all of the evidence that Biden wasn't in any position to be the shot caller, then you have unelected people you didn't vote for. I know personnel is policy. I voted for Biden for the appointments he's going to make. I can already hear the secondary and tertiary cover stories. But excuse me, is that what you think democracy looks like? You vote for someone, that person does not have the capacity to do the job, and so a bunch of unelected people that he appointed are the shot callers, and you have no sort of transparent look into it. You have no idea who's doing what. Not for sure, because they're propping this guy up because it's, the proverbial weekend at Bernie's. That's what democracy looks like? Or is like that a bad Richard Dreyfuss movie? Or a bad, actually it wasn't too bad, a bad Kevin Kline movie, probably more accurate. I was thinking Moon Over Parador, but Dave is probably better. And of course, you would feel the same way if it became clear that Trump didn't have the mental acuity for the job, and it was just then, I don't know, who's making decisions over there, who's pulling the levers and turning the dials. Is it Stephen Miller? Is it Trump Jr.? Is it J.D. Vance? Is it a combination of who is it? It doesn't matter, right? Jerry in Milwaukee.
Yeah, good morning, Dan. I think the Senator Clyburn hit it right on the head when he said, what's that?
Representative Clyburn.
Oh, I'm sorry. Representative Clyburn hit it right on the head when he said he noticed nothing out of the ordinary. The ordinary being everybody lies and everybody's incompetent.
Yeah, right. Business as usual. Thanks, Jerry. Bob and Carol Stream.
Hi, Dan. Good morning. Thanks for taking my call. I got a question for you. Do you think there's any kind of a legal recourse with this, of these people that were lying or surrounding or protecting? Or is this akin to like Roosevelt and you got to keep that stuff covered up for the good of the world and country and such?
Well, thanks for the call. I don't think there's a criminal legal exposure here. Not that I've seen the lying, what we've just documented. But certainly what they did was not for the good of the country. It was for the good of themselves and their propped up POTUS.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Perhaps you're a collector, or perhaps all of a sudden you have a collection. Maybe it's an inheritance. How do you know what it's worth? This is Sean Thompson for Donnelly Auction. The market for antiques and collectibles is changing all the time. What is your collection worth right now? Well, I've got an easy way to find out. It's simple. You contact Donnelly Auctions with their worldwide audience of live and in-person auctions. They have a good idea of how to tell you exactly what it's worth at exactly right now. They're ready to put top dollar in your pocket. The bigger the collection, the better. Go to DonnellyAuctions.com and get the info on all things that they buy and sell to have an idea of exactly what Donnelly does and how much they need your collection. They have so many buyers, it's a great time to sell. Just simply make a phone call. Donnelly has traveled all over the country to pick up collections. Just call and talk to the people at Donnelly Auctions at 815-923-7000. Donnelly Auctions is your trusted partner in turning your collections into cash. DonnellyAuctions.com.
Your home or business has storm damage and you have an insurance claim.
Call Crosscom.
Crosscom Construction and Public Adjusters. Today, insurance companies are notorious for offering way too little money to repair damage to your home or commercial building due to wind, hail, tornado, floods, or fire. Crosscom works for you, not the insurance company. As licensed adjusters, Crosscom will work to get you the money you deserve, the maximum payout.
Call Crosscom.
630-871-5500. After they get you the fair insurance company result, Crosscom Crosscom can start doing your repairs. Crosscom is a full construction and restoration company that will get your property back to its pre-loss condition, getting your life back to normal. Roof, siding, windows, doors, fire restoration, Crosscom does it all.
Call Crosscom.
Licensed in Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, and Wisconsin.
This is Dan Leitz with Crosscom. We share your conservative and Christian values. Let us handle everything. It all starts with a call.
630-871-5500. CrosscomPublicAdjusters.com.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors, a third-generation family-owned business since 1969. We know you're bombarded by choices when shopping for new windows or doors, so we're inviting you to experience the Woodland difference. For decades, we have been transforming living spaces with Marvin Windows, a fifth-generation family business. Marvin replacement windows have been known to increase the warmth of your cold rooms by 10 degrees. Think about that, 10 degrees warmer. When you welcome Woodland into your home, you will get a product expert to transform your living spaces, full-time, dedicated professional installers that you can trust in your home, along with the best products like Marvin. These are the reasons we're proud of our 5-star reviews and family legacy. No gimmicks, no pressure, and upfront pricing are why Woodland Windows and Doors is your trusted window and door expert in Chicagoland. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your free in-home expert consultation. That's woodlandwindows.com, or stop by our showroom at the corner of Lake and Geary in Roselle.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 6:36, healthinsurancementors.com. Stephen Tucker joins us. We're going to talk government shutdown because, of course, the Schumer cover story is that this is all about protecting and providing quality health care for Americans. And we'll go through the arguments they're making with somebody who is an expert on health insurance and health care in America, C.S. Tucker, at 6:36. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 64 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. President Trump delivered remarks to U.S. military leaders in Quantico yesterday morning, where he reiterated his plans to deploy the military in the city of Chicago to deal with violent crime.
Last week they had 11 people murdered, 44 people shot. The week before that they had 5 people murdered, 28 people shot. Every weekend they lose 5, 6. If they lose 5, they're considering it a great week. They shouldn't lose any.
Meanwhile, crime is actually down this year in Chicago, according to police data, with shootings, robberies, and murders all down by more than 30% as compared to last year. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker says he opposes deploying the military here in Chicago, calling it a, quote, abuse of power by the president. And 2 people have been arrested following the shooting death of a Chicago woman over the weekend in New Orleans. Authorities say 33-year-old Jessica Williams was caught in the crossfire of the 2 suspects who were actually shooting at each other. News is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. What if you could save an average of 90% for dental implants and get 100% of your smile back? With the Blue Cross Blue Shield, PPO, or FEP, it's possible. Check if you qualify at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Larry Elder is not seeing any changes.
Aside from Doug Schoen, the Democrat pollster, and John Fetterman, I've not heard a major voice in the Democratic Party say, we got to stop referring to Trump and his followers as fascists, as Nazis, a tyrant, and a Hitler. We got to stop doing that.
The Larry Elder Show, weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer.
When the power goes out, life stops. Heat, AC, fridge, phones, all gone. But with a Generac home standby generator from True Power Generator Service, your home powers back on automatically, so you're never left in the dark. Book your consultation today at TruePowerGenerator.com. That's TruePowerGenerator.com. Plus, 560 listeners get a free 10-year extended warranty. Terms and conditions apply. Call for details. True Power Generator Service and Generac. It's not just a generator, it's a power move.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. Did you know the IRS has programs specifically designed to help people struggling with tax debt? Powerful tax assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution firm. firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, their award-winning tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. One call to Optima can start the process, helping to put an end to your worries about wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other aggressive IRS actions. Find the best options to solve your tax problems. Call the experts at Optima Tax Relief today for a free consultation.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Ross Shaw talks about building income in retirement.
You know, you can actually structure it in a way that have that $4,000 a month coming in the door every single month. So you don't have to look at the stock ticker and say, oh, the stock market's up today, stock market's down. You still got that $4,000 a month, and having that opportunity to take the vacations and do all the fun things in retirement that you always dream to do.
Unleash Your Wealth, Saturday at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. on AM 560, The Answer.
If you want thick, healthy, gorgeous hair, then you need Hair Volume from New Nordic. Available online at Amazon and NewNordicUSA.com or in the hair care aisle at your local CVS.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hodgeburg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Inbound on the Eden from Lake Cook to Montrose is 16 minutes. Outbound is 14. Now inbound Kennedy from O'Hare to the Burn Interchange is 32 minutes. That's a 13-minute delay. There is an accident at Addison Street taking out the left lane. On the outbound side from O'Hare to the Burn Interchange is 26 minutes. Getting slow inbound on the Eisenhower from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 24 minutes. Outbound is 19. Inbound Stevenson from Tri-State to Lakeshore is 22. Outbound is 20, and the Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn Interchange is 15. Outbound looks good at 10. This report is sponsored by Lowe's. At Lowe's, save on job site supplies with My Lowe's Pro Rewards. Eligible members enjoy volume discounts on qualifying orders through a quote of $2,000 or more. Offer can't be combined with any other discount, contract, and or special pricing. Exclusions, more terms and restrictions apply. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be warm with sunshine filtering through high clouds, reaching a high of 77. Tonight, expect mostly cloudy skies with a low of 59. Tomorrow, anticipate very warm conditions as clouds gradually clear for some sunshine with a high of 83. On Friday, temperatures will soar, nearing the record of 91 from 1954 under abundant sunshine with a high of 89. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So on this government shutdown that did come to pass, as expected, because of the position that Chuck Schumer and Democrats took. And it was clear this was coming a couple weeks out. They want to spend another $1.5 trillion over the next 4 weeks and restore the spending that was resized by President Trump. Of course, that was never going to happen, including covering health care costs for people in this country illegally, which became a bit of a sticking point in the back and forth between, well, obviously the new Marxists and Republicans, but the new Marxist mouthpieces too, like Klingon Collins on CNN. She and Speaker Johnson had this exchange.
If that counterproposal was enacted, is illegal aliens would be paid for. American taxpayers, hard-earned dollars, would be paying for benefits for illegal aliens again. We're not doing that.
But it's against federal law for people who are here illegally to get
Yes, and that's
care.
why our reforms are so important to enforce all that. What the important thing to remember is what's happening
I didn't see that the
tonight.
Democratic proposal that people who are here illegally should get
No, because
health care.
they don't have the level of specification that we had in our bill. It will unwind that, and all those things that the CBO just verified will be reversed. closed. We can't afford to do that.
But you
The
see my
program
point,
has
that there's
no, I
nuance
don't
in
see
the
your
argument
point.
that you're making, right?
No, that is a red herring in this debate. What they've decided to do tonight with their vote is to close the government. And what that means, everybody needs to understand, real pain for real Americans. What does that mean? It means women, infants, and children do not get their nutrition programs. That is not funded anymore. Veterans don't get their health care services, suicide prevention, and other very important things that are very timely. You have low-income persons who are Medicaid, Medicare recipients who are receiving care at home. Those programs are now lapsed. They will not be funded.
Yeah, you're
got
making a
troops
point about
not
what
paid,
happens if the
TSA
government
agents
shuts
not-
it.
That's right, and they just decided to do it. So the only question tonight is, how long will Chuck Schumer keep the government closed? It's a dangerous gambit. It's something that he himself said his entire political career would be dangerous and disastrous. Roll the tape. We're rolling the greatest hits on our social media.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
And Mad Maxine Waters, No Justice, No Peace Maxine, who Mike Johnson references having sort of inadvertently admitted that is the New Marxist Party's position, is they want spending to cover health care for all in this country, including those here illegally. Well, yeah, that is sort of what she said.
But aren't Democrats demanding health care for illegal aliens?
Democrats are demanding health care for everybody. We want to save lives. We want to make sure that health care is available to those who would die, but having the help of their government.
Mm-hmm. Everybody would include the, I don't know how many ever tens of millions of people who are in this country illegally, by definition, wouldn't it? There was a follow-up to get clarity from No Justice, No Peace Maxine, which is not an easy task. And then she sort of figured out that maybe she doesn't want to be so forthright about the party's actual position. And so she can't say no. She doesn't want to say yes. So you just attack the question.
So you're good with the government shutdown, even if it means giving health care to people who aren't American citizens?
Well, that's what you're pushing on. What you're trying to do is you're standing here and you're trying to make me say that somehow we're going to put non-citizens over Americans. Quit it. Stop it. This is the kind of journalism we don't need.
No, I'm just
you're divisive. No, you're not. You're being divisive. No, please. You don't need to ask that question.
No.
You're just trying to get controversy here. You're not going to get it from me.
No, boy, you played that well, Representative Waters. Woo, you played that well. No, we're not going to put non-citizens over citizens. You're trying to get me to say that. I'm not going to say that. But we will treat non-citizens like citizens and just cover everybody. For more on this, pleased to be joined by C. Stephen Tucker, the principal of healthinsurancementors.com. CS, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan.
So this is, the argument that you've heard yesterday was it was all about sort of Obamacare subsidies to ensure access to quality care for Americans. This is what Democrats are saying the shutdown is about, but it's about much more than that in terms of what their demands are, their spending demands. But just on that narrow issue, can you address that?
Yeah, so the narrative is that Democrats want to fund Obamacare subsidies for illegal immigrants. That has never been allowed. It is not allowed today. It was not allowed since 2010. They're specifically barred from obtaining federal health insurance subsidies and always have been. In the GOP's tax law that they passed under President Trump, they stopped subsidies to go to those who are lawfully present immigrants, such as refugees, asylum seekers, and people who have visas, for example, people who are legally present here but are not American citizens. That is what they want to restore. Democrats, that is, not to illegal immigrants. They've been barred from getting federal subsidies since the inception of the law. Now, that is a very small minority compared to the number of American citizens who are going to lose federal health insurance subsidies on January 1 of 2026, unless something is done. And I suspect something will be done. I suspect they will spend $1 trillion. They will solve this government shutdown rather quickly because the market's going to bear the pain of this shutdown starting today. I suspect a 200 or more point drop in the Dow. So it's going to be resolved quickly. But what is the argument really about? The argument is really about the American Rescue Plan and the Inflation Reduction Act, two pieces of legislation that were signed by Joseph R. Biden. During the nightmare that was COVID, when they were shutting down everything that was non-essential except, of course, the essential places like stripper places and marijuana.
Yes, of course. Yes.
And Home Depot. Those are essential.
Yes.
The rest of us, of course, couldn't work, couldn't leave our houses because of the tyranny of those that imposed those ridiculous acts under COVID. But nevertheless, during then, because we couldn't work and we were non-essential, they enhanced the federal subsidies for Obamacare plans from 400% of the federal poverty level to over 625% of the federal poverty level. And so in plain English, that means a couple before the American Rescue Plan in 2021, if they earn more than $78,960 a year, they qualify for no advance premium tax credit, aka no federal health insurance subsidy. That same couple, if they're in their 50s, for example, can today earn more than $200,000 a year and qualify for large advance premium tax credits. Because they did that under the American Rescue Plan in 2021, which was sunset to end in 12 months, but then along comes the American Rescue Plan, and or the Inflation Reduction Act, which extended the American Rescue Plan subsidies all the way to January 1, 2026, and then sunsetted them. They come to a screeching halt on January 1, which means that couple who is now enjoying a federal health insurance subsidy making over $200,000 a year is now going to lose all subsidies if they're making more than $80,000 a year.
Well, this is the other aspect I wanted to get to too. So I want to go back to the to that cohort of people who are not citizens and may be here illegally. But let's start with the other cohort here that you're describing. And this is the point that Republicans are making too, is basically the Medicaid or the Obamacare expansion that provides Medicaid coverage and subsidies for people that were never intended to be covered by these programs. It makes these programs even more unfinanceable than they already are. So, I mean, isn't there this issue of going back to what Maxine Waters said, which is the actual position? We want a government, we want single payer. We want government to cover health care for everybody in the country who's here, legal or illegally. They don't really, philosophically, they don't really want to make a distinction. But the point is to say that there is no interest in auditing the Medicaid rolls, federal, state, joint programs. There's no interest in trying to remove anybody from the rolls, even if they are ineligible or it was never conceived that they would be eligible under Medicaid.
Correct. It is only due to Dr. Oz, who's now sitting at CMS, that we have now been able to identify millions and millions of people who are receiving federal health insurance subsidies unbeknownst to them because they were also enrolled in Medicaid. Right. And when you're enrolled in Medicaid, you can't get an advance premium tax credit. And yet these unscrupulous brokers all over the country, all they needed was a name and a social security number, and they could enroll them without their consent.
Well,
and get a large commission.
And so I don't want to interrupt, but I mean, this is my point going back to, technically subsidies, if you're in this country legally, you're not eligible for them. But I mean, the position of the new Marxist Party is no oversight, no guardrails, and no accounting. So you can say under the law, this is not allowed to happen, just like under the law, these people shouldn't be getting something that they're getting or shouldn't be on the rolls that they're on. But in terms of practice, when there are no accountability mechanisms and no desire for said, then of course it opens the door. And I think that's what Mike Johnson was getting to.
Yeah, I mean, the law is very, very clear. Illegal immigrants cannot get federal health insurance subsidies. They never have been able to. They can't do it on Medicaid either. They're not eligible for Medicare either. The evidence that is true is that J.B. Pritzker created brand new programs, state-based only, which were allowed to provide Medicaid, which was much better coverage than Illinois residents could get, to illegal immigrants. Yeah. He had to create and fund a program entirely separate from Obamacare. If illegal aliens could get federal health insurance subsidies, he would have just sent them to healthcare.gov, but they can't, right?
Yeah, right.
And they never have been able to. So the argument is not about illegal immigrants. It is about those who are lawfully present here that cannot get federal health insurance subsidies. They want that to continue, the Democrat Party. That said, that is an infinitesimally small number of people compared to the 4 million American citizens who are going to lose their health insurance subsidies and probably not be able to afford health insurance as of January 1 if they don't extend the subsidies set to sunset under Biden's American Rescue Plan as of January 1. And I suspect they will extend them for a year or two.
I want to get your reaction to something else, the Trump RX pharmacy that was announced yesterday with Pfizer CEO Alberto Boller in tow. This is what Trump had to say.
Many years, Americans have paid the highest prices anywhere in the world for prescription drugs. They paid far more, 10 times, 13 times, 15 times more than other countries for the exact same product. A major reason is that the American consumers have been subsidizing research and development costs for the entire planet. They put all of that on us, and yet they were the beneficiaries too. So it's being changed as of today. The United States at just 4% of the world's population and consumers, only 13% of all prescription drugs, yet pharmaceutical companies make 75% of their profits from the United States. So think of that. We have 4% of the market. 13% of prescription drugs, and yet, Albert, I didn't know you were that violent. I'm surprised you're here to this.
I'm getting better.
No, he's doing the right thing. Thank you. And yet they make 75% of their profits from the American customers, so it's something. That's why I signed an executive order combating this practice, and we signed it very happily.
Yeah, well, I'm not a big Alberto Bourla fan or Pfizer fan or Big Pharma fan. And so here's the deal. Trump RX, direct-to-consumer website for discounted drug purchases with Pfizer offering some drugs. Pfizer offer all of its drugs to Medicaid at a reduced most favored nation price and introduce new drugs at reduced prices. In exchange, Pfizer receives a 3-year exemption from national security tariffs if it invests in domestic manufacturing. What say you to this gambit, CS?
Well, it's interesting to see how well the pharmaceutical companies did on Wall Street yesterday after this meeting. And that, of course, is because all they have to do in order to get America to be the most favored nation status is raise prices in other countries, right? So that it looks better here, right? Now, they are going to develop this website, which is trumprx.gov. If you go there today, it doesn't work because they're building it so that it will be revealed next year, probably around June. And they're going to sell their products, Pfizer, et cetera, direct to the consumer. There are two problems with that. One is a benefit. It eliminates the high cost of PBMs, pharmacy benefit managers, who take a lot of money in between the manufacturer of the drug and the end user, the consumer. But if you buy through direct websites like that, your insurance is not going to cover it. And so who are they really appealing to? Well, there are currently about 27 million Americans who are uninsured, which coincidentally is the same number we had before Obamacare. But nevertheless,
of course,
it's not going to help those people who have insurance because they're not going to cover it, right? But if they're smart, what they will do, and if I was advising them, what they would do is they would take all the copay cards. What people don't understand is in this country, for many years, the evil pharmaceutical companies have been giving away their drugs to people like me and many others. All they have to do is go to the manufacturer's website, apply for the copay card. You don't have to be poor. You just have to have private health insurance. Yours truly takes a drug called Dupixent, which stops my sinus polyps from regrowing. I no longer have to have surgeries. That drug costs $4,000 a month. I pay nothing for it because I applied for the copay card through the manufacturer of Dupixent. They go through my Blue Cross insurance, and I pay a zero copay. That happens all over the country so long as you are insured. And again, you don't have to be poor. So if the Trump administration was smart, they would take all of those websites where the consumer has to go search and find these copay cards and put them in together at trumprx.gov so that those who are uninsured and those who are insured can take advantage of these unique benefits provided by pharmaceutical companies. That is how I would advise them.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that sounds like a sage advice, which is why you're on the program. It's something, though, that, I mean, so I bristle at price controls because I'm a free market kind of guy. And this sort of mercantilism, these sort of like doing deals with Pfizer, government and Pfizer in bed together. You genuflect before the government, you get a special carve out. I don't like it. But also underlying the philosophy here, I think, is a misunderstanding of the environment. So that there was a 2024 RAND report that found name brand drugs in the U.S. were 422% of prices in comparison countries.
Yes.
That's what he was referring to. However, unbranded generics, which make up 90% of all prescriptions dispensed in the U.S., were on average cheaper at 67% of prices in comparison countries, where on average only 41% of prescription volume is for unbranded generics. So you have that top line, oh, big pharma's ripping, but then you have the unbranded generics, which actually are most of the overwhelming majority of the prescriptions, and it's a very different story. That's number one. Number two, yes, we essentially subsidize the R&D so they can reduce prices to overseas markets, talking about the pharma companies, but we have an access advantage for doing that. And there are access issues in other countries to these drugs that will be visited upon us if we impose these price controls writ large. That's the concern.
Well said. Well said. That's why you're the host of Chicago's Morning Answer.
No, thank you very much.
I couldn't add to that. I do want to close with this. In a week from now, every Illinois resident who has Obamacare in the individual marketplace is going to receive a love letter from healthcare.gov. Our dear leader, J.B. Pritzker, has removed 450,000 people who get individual health insurance from healthcare.gov. You may no longer use healthcare.gov in the state of Illinois, nor can you use Health Sherpa. You must use J.B. Pritzker's new site, getcovered.illinois.gov. And he has assured all Illinois residents it's going to work perfectly, just like healthcare.gov worked perfectly in 2014.
Oh, yeah.
I am so convinced that it's not going to work. Well,
what's the basis of this change?
They want to work specifically through an Illinois state exchange. We have been a state-federal partnership exchange since 2014. They are now detaching themselves in every way possible from the evil Trump administration.
Yeah, of course.
And so we're now going to be our own state-based exchange. So everybody's going to get a letter. You all have to go to getcovered.illinois.gov as of October 6th and claim your account, right? And I'm sure it's all going to work perfectly, which is why I will be off the air from October 1st until February 1st, because I'm convinced that I'm going to be navigating hundreds of people through this process, and it's not going to go smoothly.
The C.S. Tucker full employment plan there. You're going to send a love letter to J.B. Pritzker, I presume.
Exactly.
C.S. Tucker, C. Stephen Tucker, always value-added information from C.S. Tucker. HealthInsuranceMentors.com. Those love letters are coming. You may want to contact C.S. at HealthInsuranceMentors.com for some navigation assistance. C.S., thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave.
And C. Stephen Tucker joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Salem News Channel is America's fastest growing conservative TV network.
It's an absolute crazy day.
Home to the largest lineup of free speech champions anywhere. Delivering in-depth insight and unapologetic opinion on today's biggest news stories.
Americans aren't going to put up with this anymore.
SNC brings you the news that matters, told with integrity and clarity. Watch Salem News Channel free 24/7 on your television. Stream now on Pluto TV.
An informed and educated citizenry is the only guarantee to preserve our constitutional republic. And each week, you'll hear from experts, not pundits, and find out what's really happening, from local issues to national politics. Listen to The Real Story with Jeannie Ives. There's no topic of public policy concern that she won't talk about. Stop the lies. Learn the truth. Join the conversation. Sunday night at 7, right here on AM 560. The Answer. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer. News, opinion, insight. This is AM 560, The Answer. WIND, Chicago. Streaming at 560theanswer.com on the AM 560 mobile app, or tell your smart speaker to play The Answer Chicago.
Fox News alert. A lot of work in the federal government is coming to a halt. I'm Dave Anthony. After Congress failed to provide funding by the midnight deadline.
How is this good for the country? Nobody wins with a shutdown.
Republican Senator Rick Scott also tells Fox he thinks Congress should not get paid like federal employees affected. And he blames Democrats for blocking the House-passed bill that would have provided 7 weeks of funding.
What are the Democrats doing? This is a clean resolution. All we're doing is keeping the funding. Actually, the funding is too high. It's still the Biden funding. But I don't want to shut down government, so I support it.
The Senate's Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer, says it's Republicans' fault.
The bottom line is we're not going to negotiate this bill in public. We need to come to a bipartisan solution that protects America's health care.
Now, they want to add provisions to extend Obamacare subsidies that will expire at the end of the year and make coverage more expensive. The shutdown could furlough or even lay off hundreds of thousands of federal employees. Others who have to keep working, like federal law enforcement, won't get paid till there's new funding.
Mail, Social Security checks, and student loan bills are still being delivered. Airports are running. Those workers are considered essential and are expected to show up unpaid for now. The Interior Department's keeping national park roads and open-air memorials open during the shutdown with minimal, if any, restroom cleaning or trail clearing services. Members of the military are working without pay with some services on bases limited.
That's Fox's Chris Foster. Can AI help us beat cancer? President Trump hopes so.
I'm thrilled to sign a very historic executive order to massively accelerate pediatric cancer research and harness the extraordinary potential of artificial intelligence to fight this terrible disease.
He's also increasing funding for AI use at the Department of Health and Human Services. There's a search for children feared trapped alive in Indonesia, where a school collapsed Monday. At least 91 teenage students unaccounted for, so the number of deaths, now 3, is expected to rise. At least 69 people died in the Philippines when the earthquake, the magnitude 6.9 jolt that also may have people trapped. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It is 64 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. We'll see clouds decrease throughout the day and then sunshine and 74 this afternoon. Ground is being broken for the first project at the planned Illinois Quantum and Microelectronics Park at the Quantum Shore on Chicago's South Side. Jitel Giadamani has more.
Ground is broken for the first project at the planned Illinois Quantum and Microelectronics Park on Chicago's southeast side. The Quantum facility will be the anchor tenant and house the first utility-scale, error-corrected quantum computer at the park. Governor J.B. Pritzker's office said the state has invested $700 million of taxpayer funds to cement Illinois' leadership in quantum computing.
The Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights say it's responded after federal authorities raided a building in Chicago's South Shore neighborhood Tuesday morning. Initial reports indicate at least 40 people were taken into custody at a building which was believed to be housing Venezuelan migrants. ICIRR called it, quote, part of a prolonged attack on Chicago communities by President Donald Trump and other MAGA leaders. And the Illinois Restaurant Association is preparing workers for that new rule allowing tipped workers to deduct up to $25,000 in qualified tips from their taxes during the upcoming tax season. The Treasury Department has issued a list of 68 occupations covered by the new rule, including bartenders, servers, hairstylists, and more, industries where tipping is common. Officials say the best advice for those impacted by the new no tax on tips rule is to gather tip records early and go into the tax season well prepared. News is a service of almostfreeteeth.com. Overpaying for dental implants is over. If you have a Blue Cross, Blue Shield, PPO, or FEP, you can save 90% off on average to get your smile back. Learn more and check if you qualify at almostfreeteeth.com. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Join AM 560 on Thursday, October 2nd in Glen Ellen for a conservative conversation, an evening of insight, inspiration, and ideas on how conservatives can unite around shared values to advance a common agenda. Speakers will include Pastor Lorenzo Sewell of 180 Church in Detroit, Jeannie Ives, and John Anthony, with each bringing a unique perspective on faith, policy, and community leadership. Get your tickets today at 560theanswer.com/conversation. That's 560theanswer.com/conversation.
The following advertisement includes a celebrity impersonation.
You know, nothing beats the comfort of a perfectly heated home.
And when it comes to heating your home, Air Right Heating and Cooling does it the fast.
And they love our country. Beautiful people.
Air Right Heating and Cooling is fast. When your furnace breaks down, they'll fix it right away.
Just like that. Big time results. No waiting around. You get the job done right. And let's face it, who doesn't love being warm, right? It's beautiful. When it's freezing, I crank up that amazing furnace. Burn, baby, burn. Trust me, you'll say, wow, I've never felt this warm in my life.
If you like keeping your hard-earned money, then contact Air Right Heating and Cooling. Tell them AM 560 sent you, and right now you'll receive $56 off any service.
Unbelievable.
Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. Air Right Heating and Cooling. Doing it right since 1959.
It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and LifeLock is here with tips to help protect your identity. Use strong passwords, set up multi-factor authentication on your accounts, report phishing, and update your software on all your devices. And for comprehensive identity protection, LifeLock is your best choice. LifeLock not only alerts you to suspicious uses of your personal information, but also fixes identity theft, guaranteed, or your money back. So stay smart, stay safe, and stay protected with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com. Use the promo code BECK. Terms do apply.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term.
You've heard me talk about Northridge for years, but now I want you to hear from one of their recent graduates, TJ Gorman, who just graduated second in his class in Marine Corps basic training. This is what he said. I was blessed to attend Northridge not only for the education, but for the values and principles my mentors instilled within me. The school taught us what it meant to be a leader and lead through example, hard work, humility, and empathy. I thank God for Northridge. That's what makes Northridge Prep great for young men. The students are called to excellence to become true leaders. And these boys want to go to school each day. They love Northridge because they can be free to learn, to grow, and to be challenged. There's a real spirit of adventure on campus that you've just got to experience for yourself. For nearly 50 years, they've partnered with parents like no other school in the Chicagoland area. Today, in our nation, we need more Northridge graduates to lead the way as men of intellect and character who love God. Guys like TJ Gorman, men who put their values first. Their open house is Sunday, October 19th at 1 p.m. for boys in grades 6 through 12. Register at northridgeprep.org. northridgeprep.org.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Inbound on the Eden from Lake Cook to Montrose is 20 minutes. Outbound is 14. Now, the Kennedy is getting better. Inbound from Montrose to the Burnt Interchange is 25 minutes, but an accident cleared at Addison Street. Outbound is 13 minutes. The Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office is 34 minutes. Outbound 23. Inbound on the Stevenson from Tri-State to Lakeshore is 31 minutes, but we are jammed on the outbound side. It's 27 minutes. There's an accident involving a flipped over car on the outbound side just before Harlem Avenue, so lots of police activity slowing you down. The Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn Interchange is 20 minutes. Outbound still looking good at 10. Traffic is a service of Quick Delivery Service. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be warm with sunshine filtering through high clouds, reaching a high of 77. Tonight, expect mostly cloudy skies with a low of 59. Tomorrow, anticipate very warm conditions as clouds gradually clear for some sunshine with a high of 83. On Friday, temperatures will soar, nearing the record of 91 from 1954 under abundant sunshine with a high of 89. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So that was some 1-2 punch at Quantico yesterday with the military brass in attendance. First, Pete Hegseth explaining to all those generals that the Department of Defense culture, that era has now ended, and the Department of War period has begun.
From this moment forward, the only mission of the newly restored Department of War is this: warfighting, preparing for war and preparing to win, unrelenting and uncompromising in that pursuit. Not because we want war, no one here wants war, but it's because we love peace. We love peace for our fellow citizens. They deserve peace, and they rightfully expect us to deliver it.
So that was sort of the foundation that was laid from the secretary. And I mean, as we talked about earlier in the show and a little bit at the end of the show yesterday, I don't think he intended them to be colorful moments, but they're colorful moments nonetheless, talking about sort of the professional, apolitical culture that will be the order of the day in the Department of War, as distinguished from the identitarian culture in the previous administration. But when it was time for Trump to speak, I thought it was interesting that, Hegseth gave sort of the talk about what the corporate culture, if you will, is going to be in the armed services, how things are going to work. And Trump spent a good deal of his remarks talking about enemies domestic as opposed to foreign. Not exclusively, but a good part of it, given the scrambling of National Guardsmen to Washington, D.C. and elsewhere, Portland. And his message to the generals was, at least in part, about the military being used as a quick reaction force.
Last month, I signed an executive order to provide training for a quick reaction force that can help quell civil disturbances. So this is going to be a big thing for the people in this room, because it's the enemy from within, and we have to handle it before it gets out of control. It won't get out of control. Once you get involved at all, they all joke. They say, oh, this is not good. But these service members are following in a great and storied military tradition, from protecting frontier communities to chasing outlaws and bandits in the Wild West. And our history is filled with military heroes who took on all enemies, foreign and domestic. You know that phrase very well. That's what the oath says, foreign and domestic. Well, we also have domestic. George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Grover Cleveland, George Bush, and others all used the armed forces to keep domestic order and peace. Many of our leaders used the military to keep peace. Now they like to say, oh, you're not allowed to use the military. And you know what the people say? The people in those cities where they're being raped and shot and beat up, you know, they say, we love the military. You ever see where they interview the people on the street? I've never seen somebody say they don't, unless they're radical and paid off, because a lot of these insurrectionists are paid by, whether it's Soros or other people, but they're paid by the radical left. So today I want to thank every service member, from general to private, who has bravely helped us secure the nation's capital and make America safe for the American people. It's amazing. The whole world is watching.
For more on this, pleased to be joined by retired Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer. He is the president at Project Sentinel in the London Center for Policy Research. He's also the author of Operation Dark Heart, Spycraft and Special Ops on the Front Lines of Afghanistan and the Path to Victory. Colonel Shaffer, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, good morning. Always great to be with you.
So, tackle what Trump had to say about, the military's role in providing quick response forces to quell domestic disturbances, as he was describing.
I think it's more than just that. I think, as I was asked a lot before this meeting last week of what it would be, and basically the summary I gave people was, this is all about getting your mind right as a senior leader in DOD. And as you point out, Pete kind of laid out the mechanics, the policy. Trump put out the strategic objectives. We need to look at the homeland. So when you look at the homeland, you look at the domestic insecurities, the challenges, much of that's coming from the southwest border. So while he didn't say it, the DOD is now refocusing on the southwest border and Latin America. We've seen this in Venezuela. We're going to see more going on regarding Mexico. So It's more about the Western Hemisphere. My friends and I almost described it, and this is available on my X account because we did a whole thing on this. This is a restatement of the Monroe Doctrine. And what was different about Monroe back in the 19th century is that they didn't have all the domestic challenges we have. And don't take this the wrong way, but challenges with big, blue cities like Chicago, just saying, and other cities, which essentially have become combat zones. And I said about 10 years ago that it was safer to be in Kabul in a war zone than in Chicago on a weekend. And it's true. So I think that's where this is all going. It's all going to examine, the Teddy Roosevelt 1906, walk softly, carry a big stick. It's all about refocusing things closer to home. And I think that's that's much of what I think they were trying to say. I think most of that came through. And I think in many ways, while Pete has said we're going to be the most lethal global force ever, which I do believe, and full disclosure, Pete and I are friends, so I know Pete. I think it's going to move in that direction. I think at the same time, we all recognize from just the last 10 years that we have problems here at home we have to focus on and fix.
Well, yeah. I mean, when he says enemies domestic, I mean, I don't think Monroe Doctrine. I think he's talking about big cities, and he'd mentioned D.C.,
well, he is. Yeah.
where he's already deployed resources, and he has an eye towards deploying more.
Yes.
And thinking about terror, what may be a domestic terrorist network or groups like Antifa. That's what I heard when he was talking about that.
Sure. Well, yes, I don't disagree with you. What I'm saying is much of the instability regarding those cities comes from criminal networks, which human traffic, which move drugs. I mean, the fentanyl issue is something that's traceable all the way back to China. Much of the cartels now, at least in the last administration, I always talked about the fact that the border was not open, controlled by the other side. It was very tightly controlled. So I think that's what I'm saying is that a lot of these inner cities suffer from outside resources which come in to destabilize it. Not arguing about that's a huge threat. But yes, we have other outside factors he wants to address. Root causes, if you will.
But I mean, do you have any concern that the deployment of military resources to deal with domestic unrest in whatever form that takes in places like Chicago and Portland and Memphis and D.C. Dilutes the mission? The focus here from Hegseth is on the stated objectives, and this can be included. But I'm just asking the dilution question. Yeah. Is that a concern?
So part of this is a reframing, and I'll be blunt. We could not challenge China or Russia in any credible way right now for two reasons. First, we have leaders who are still in the ranks, but by the way, they were offered the door yesterday.
Yeah.
By now, Pete Hegseth and company have
especially if they want to wear a beard, they were offered the door.
Yeah, exactly. Or high heels, just saying. So they know internally who the leaders were who just kind of went along and had to go along with woke and those who embraced it. Just saying. And I know there's more coming on that. So yesterday was there like, hey, there's the door. If you want to take it, you go. You go, girl. And so that was the good that was their one shot to leave.
Yeah.
So now it's going to get serious. And I know for a fact that they're going to start looking harder at how to get rid of generals to re-harden the military. So you got to go that way. Other thing is technology. We have bled technology and our ability to do war fighting. We've given up that knowledge to our enemies because we actually have been fighting to win in Ukraine. We've been giving all these things. We're about to give them Tomahawk missiles. So it's like, okay, you keep throwing this technology out there and hoping for the best, and you're compromising to the adversaries what our capabilities are. So we got to stop that. We got to start refocusing on how to create a military force that's lethal to our needs with our technology rather than giving away the secrets to other folks. So
well,
things like
well, speaking of that, I mean, the journal opined on this too, the lethality issue, giving the war fighters the tools they need to win. The journal, that includes not running out of long-range anti-ship missiles after mere days of fighting in the Taiwan Strait or flying jets built in the Cold War. This will happen if the U.S. doesn't spend more on defense than Trump's apparent target of 3% of GDP. Trump isn't telling Americans the truth when he claims to have rebuilt the military. Our current trajectory, he risks sending warriors into battle without the ships, submarines, bombers, fighters, drones, or logistics support they need to prevail. What do you say to that?
I agree, believe it or not. So I think President Trump has pushed us, given a big shove in the right direction with a lot of good leadership to do it. With that said, we have been inflicted with bad policy regarding acquisition. And they talked about this too yesterday, about acquisition reform. The F-35 is going to be the program that swallowed the Pentagon. They have so much waste in that program. So what I say, and I used to work this issue, I still kind of do, but not as much as a direct issue I did back during the 2020 campaign. We want an effective defense, not an expensive defense. And so much of what we've done is allowed for what Eisenhower described as a military-industrial congressional complex to rule the budget. So we're going to take a step back. They're going to look at how we acquire things. One of the things the Army created during the last war, during the War on Terror, was something called the Rapid Equipping Force, the REF, down in Fort Belvoir, Virginia. They basically looked at off-the-shelf technology and how can we adapt things we need on the battlefield now rather than waiting 5 years for a program to pick it up. We're going to go back to looking at that and then cutting those programs like the Zumwalt project over in the Navy, the F-35, that we've already started dumping that. We've taken things like Cold War fighters. You mentioned the Cold War fighters. The F-15, we've upgraded it with digitization, made it almost a whole new airframe for like 1/3 the price of an F-35. There's a lot of innovations that we can do and should do, and those have been essentially ignored or simply not within the political context of what the Democrats and other folks wanted to do in the administration, the Biden administration before that Obama. So I think there's a whole reframing going on. And it's going to take some time before we can get back to challenge near peers or peers on the battlefield.
Just going back to Hegseth, how do you think the majority of the brass in attendance reacted to his admonitions against fat, bearded generals in dresses? How is that going to be received, do you think?
Yeah, well, I always talk about the fact that we have bureaucrats with their fat spreading asses sitting in seats in the Pentagon. So that's one of the reasons they brought them all in. It's like, look, we're going to talk to you face to face, and they're going to have an opportunity to give their feedback to the secretary. One of the things I know about Pete, he's going to allow them all to basically, he has an open door policy, which I think is great for leaders. He's going to give them a chance to give them feedback. It's like, okay, what'd you think? And from what I've seen so far, is about 70% of people who attended get it and are on board. There's about 30% which are in different categories. 10% who's basically going to violently work against it. We're probably going to lose about 10% of the workforce that was here yesterday because they don't want to go along. There's going to be another 20%, which is kind of like, well, we don't like this, but we're going to just kind of dig our heels in and wait till the next administration. So
unintended.
Yeah, so I think that's what's going to happen. I think that's how it was received. We'll know more over the next few days. Obviously, it was only 24 hours ago that he delivered the speech.
Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, retired, president at Project Sentinel and London Center for Policy Research, author of Operation Dark Heart, Spycraft and Special Ops on the Front Lines of Afghanistan and the Path to Victory, the book Operation Dark Heart. Lieutenant Colonel Shaffer, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Sean Thompson here, and I'm with attorney Bert Hochberg from the law firm of Schiller, Ducanto, and Fleck. We're talking about divorce arbitration. This is not really a new, or is it a new, innovative way to go through divorce?
Arbitration has been around for decades. It's completely legit and available to resolve divorce cases. The litigants and their lawyers sign an arbitration agreement. They identify what the issues are, and we set up dates, and we determine what experts and witnesses there may be. Arbitration is a hearing, a trial that is intended to finish a case efficiently with limited appeal with a binding decision, and it's confidential, so it has some great characteristics.
I think it's a unique alternative to divorce. For more information, please visit sdflaw.com and type Bert Hochberg into the search box. That's sdflaw.com or call direct 773-255-6150.
When it comes to industrial coating and finishing, cutting corners isn't an option. That's why leading manufacturers across the Midwest trust D&D Industrial Coatings in Racine, Wisconsin. From powder coating and liquid painting to blasting and custom finishing, D&D Industrial delivers top-tier protection and performance, fast, precise, and built to last. With over 40 years of experience, ISO-certified processes, and state-of-the-art lines, D&D handles everything from OEMs and petrochemical to agriculture, marine, construction, medical, and government specs. Family-owned, nationally trusted. Whether it's a short run or high volume, your parts are in expert hands, finished on time and finished right. Visit them today, ddindustrial.net. Again, that's ddindustrial.net. Or call them at 262-637-0686 to get your custom quote today. Again, that's 262-637-0686. D&D Industrial Coatings. Engineered to protect. Finished to impress.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Tony Dreyfus, founder and president of Metropolis Coffee Company and a proud new customer of Signature Bank. We're a 19-year-old specialty coffee roaster located in the heart of Chicago. Some of your favorite restaurants and cafes serve our coffee. As a small business manufacturer, we understand the importance of working with the right bank, and that's why we made the move to Signature Bank. We were tired of the impersonal service that our large bank had provided. A friend referred us to Signature Bank, and their team was on site to understand our operations firsthand. They provided us the working capital to continue our successful business operations and to fuel our ambitions for innovation and growth. We now have the flexibility to grow at our own pace. That personal touch, you can't find that at a large bank, but we found it at Signature, and we can't thank them enough.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Let Signature Bank turn your business vision into reality. Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
When the power goes out, life stops. Heat, AC, fridge, phones, all gone. But with a Generac home standby generator from True Power Generator Service, your home powers back on automatically, so you're never left in the dark. Book your consultation today at truepowergenerator.com. That's TRUpowergenerator.com. Plus, 560 listeners get a free 10-year extended warranty. Terms and conditions apply. Call for details. True Power Generator Service and Generac. It's not just a generator, it's a power move.
The Lutheran Life Communities Foundation supports spiritual care at our 4 retirement communities. Our full-time chaplains provide Christian support as older people journey through the aging process. Through assisted living, memory care, nursing, and rehab, our chaplains walk the path with your loved ones. Please support our 130-year mission with your offering today. Visit LutheranLifeCommunities.org today. That's LutheranLifeCommunities.org. Find out how you can help.
Making the switch to a new communications and IT company may seem like a big ordeal, but if you're not getting the reliable support, consistent internet, and secure solutions your company needs, meet Access One, your local Chicagoland IT experts. Access One has been powering Chicago businesses with secure, reliable IT solutions for over 30 years from our headquarters right here in the West Loop. Whether it's VoIP phones, dedicated internet, managed cybersecurity, cloud backups, or 24/7 support, Access One is here for you. Serving thousands of companies from Naperville to the North Shore, Access One is Chicago-owned and Chicago-run, a trusted IT partner for law firms, clinics, tech startups to manufacturers. We'll make the switch easier than you think. Let's talk. Call 800-804-8333 or visit accessoneinc.com. Rated top 5% in customer satisfaction and a Better Business Bureau A+ rated business. That's accessoneinc.com. Tech made personal locally.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, I got to go back to what Secretary Hegseth had to say about part of the culture change that is coming to the Department of War to all enlisted. and that relates to basic training. The traditional basic training, as often portrayed on the silver screen, is back.
We will not lose warfighters because we failed to train or equip them or resource them. Shame on us if we do. Train like your warriors' lives depend on it, because they do. To that point, basic training is being restored to what it should be: scary, tough, and disciplined. We're empowering drill sergeants to instill healthy fear in new recruits, ensuring that future warfighters are forged. Yes, they can shark attack, they can toss bunks, they can swear, and yes, they can put their hands on recruits. This does not mean they can be reckless or violate the law, but they can use tried and true methods to motivate new recruits, to make them the warriors they need to be. Back to basics at Basic as well.
So we're going to get more of this.
What is that? What the is that? What is that, Private Pile?
Sir, jelly donut, sir.
A jelly donut?
Sir, yes, sir.
How did it get here?
Sir, I took it from the mess hall, sir.
Is chow allowed in the barracks, Private Pile?
Sir, no, sir.
Are you allowed to eat jelly donuts, Private Pile?
Sir, no, sir.
And why not, Private Pile?
Sir, because I'm too heavy, sir.
Because you are a disgusting fat body, Private Pile.
Sir, yes, sir.
Then why did you hide a jelly donut in your footlocker, Private Pile?
Sir, because I was hungry, sir.
Because you were hungry. Private Pile has dishonored himself and dishonored the platoon. I have tried to help him, but I have failed. I have failed because you have not helped me. You people have not given Private Pile the proper motivation. So, from now on, whenever Private Pile up, I will not punish him. I will punish all of you. And the way I see it, ladies, you owe me for one jelly donut. Now get on your faces. Open your mouth. They're paying for it. You eat it. Ready? Exercise.
All right, Arlie Ermy types, you're welcome in the armed services under the Secretary of War. Good to know. And I just appreciate the basic training comment so we can play clips from Stripes and Full Metal Jacket, of course. Coming up at 7:37, we'll return to the government quote-unquote shutdown. How many fewer workers will there be in the federal government when this shutdown concludes, if any? We'll start there with Steve Moore, 7:37. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 63 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. Federal agents raided a housing complex in Chicago amid ramped-up immigration enforcement efforts here in the city. Fox's Mike Tobin has more.
They had developed information that criminal, illegal immigrants had taken the place over. More than a dozen were detained. At least one has a tattoo commonly associated with the Tren de Aragua gang. The detainees were taken to the ICE processing facility in Broadview, Illinois, which has now become a flashpoint for riots and a talking point for opponents of Operation Midway Blitz.
And the Chicago Bears are seeking $855 million in public funding for infrastructure in order to build an enclosed stadium that could also host Super Bowls and Final Fours. Team president Kevin Warren said this is the year to finalize plans so that the team could bid to host a Super Bowl as soon as 2031. News is a service of almostfreeteeth.com. What if you could save an average of 90% for dental implants and get 100% of your smile back? With a Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO or FEP, it's possible. Check if you qualify at almostfreeteeth.com. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Scott Jennings says we may see a shutdown.
There's no real wiggle room here for House Speaker Mike Johnson. Can't afford many defections, and the measure will need 60 votes in the Senate. Democratic leaders Schumer and Jeffries already saying they will not support this 7-week deal. Are we headed for a government shutdown in 2 weeks? Seems possible.
The Scott Jennings Show. Weekdays at 1, right before Hugh Hewitt at 2 on AM 560. The Answer.
The IRS finally caught up with Louie.
I hadn't paid my taxes in 8 years. I owe the IRS a lot of money.
Louie was in deep trouble.
We're going to take your house, put a lien on your bank account, garnish your pay. They don't care. They're going to take your paycheck.
Louie found out about Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima Tax, they help me. They calm me down. They make me feel comfortable, and I trust them.
Louie has a lot to be thankful for.
I don't owe the IRS anymore, and I'm able to live a comfortable life, a lot better life. It was because of Optima Tax.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation. Take it from Louie.
If you owe the IRS, don't go it alone. Give Optima Tax a call. They can help you.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
So my mother is thinking of switching from Verizon to Pure Talk, but she's worried the deal sounds too good to be true. Michael, she said, how can those Pure Talk people offer me the same basic service as Verizon for so much less money? I said, Ma, go ask Google how much Verizon spends on advertising and promotions. A few seconds later, my mother said, oh my goodness, $12 billion a year? That must be a typo. I'll tell you what I told my mom. It's not a typo. Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotions, and their customers are paying for it. Well, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. Trust me, I would know. That's why they can offer you and my mother unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a crazy fast 5G network for just $25 a month. And if you're a business owner, you could really save a fortune. Dial pound 250, say the words Mike Rowe, and you'll get an additional 50% off your first month. That's pound 250 Mike Rowe. Pure Talk. Everything you need and nothing you don't.
If you want thick, healthy, gorgeous hair, then you need Hair Volume from New Nordic. Available online at Amazon and NewNordicUSA.com or in the hair care aisle at your local CVS.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Inbound on the Eden from Lake Cook to Montrose is 21 minutes. Outbound is 18. The Kennedy inbound from Montrose to the Burn Interchange, 31 minutes. Outbound is 19. The Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office is 35 minutes. There is an accident taking out the left lane on the inbound Eisenhower. It's on the exit ramp to get onto the southbound Tri-State. Outbound on the Eisenhower is 23. Inbound Stevenson from Tri-State to Lakeshore is 31. Outbound is 32. That crash cleared at Harlem Avenue on the outbound side. The Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn Interchange is 24. Outbound is 10. This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Kyle started Blindster in 2010 to make quality custom-made blinds affordable to everyone. Traditional window covering retailers and expensive Blindsters prices are low and their blinds are guaranteed to fit. Blindsters.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be warm with sunshine filtering through high clouds, reaching a high of 77. Tonight, expect mostly cloudy skies with a low of 59. Tomorrow will be very warm as clouds gradually clear, allowing some sun to shine with a high of 83. By Friday, temperatures will soar, nearing the record of 91 from 1954 under abundant sunshine with a high of 89. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here on the government shutdown. The always quotable and colorful Louisiana Senator John Kennedy had this to say.
You know, everything happens for a reason, but sometimes the reason is you're stupid and you made a bad decision.
Sure, yeah.
And my Democratic colleagues have made a very, very bad decision here. I knew they were going to do this 2 weeks ago when they listed their demands. They're demanding, for example, that we not check people on Medicaid for eligibility by income. Just let anybody sign up who wants to sign up. They're demanding that we give free health care to foreign nationals who are in our country illegally. They're demanding that taxpayers pay for sex change operations. If you list all of their demands and add them up, it's between 1.2 and 1.5 trillion dollars. Now, they know it's an unserious proposal. They know we're not going to accept it. That tells me that this decision to shut down government is not based on policy, Rob. It's based on politics. And here's the politics. The loon wing, the socialist wing of the Democratic Party, does not like Senator Schumer. And he wants them to like him. He wants them to love him. They have asked that government be shut down, and Senator Schumer has agreed. But once you shut down government, you've got to figure out how to get it back open. A wise person once said, if you pray for rain, you got to be prepared to deal with the mud. And I don't know how they're going to deal with the mud, because we will never, ever agree to this list of demands. So I guess we'll just stay shut down in perpetuity.
And what does shut down mean? Well, just looking at the cabinet agencies, shutdown means the furloughing of as high a percentage as 89% of the workers in the EPA. And by the way, there's more than 15,000. And as low as 3% of the workers in the VA being furloughed. Maybe about 500,000 federal workers furloughed overall. But this is also against the backdrop of this reporting that first pegged it at 100. Reuters, I saw, had it pegged at as many as 150,000 federal workers who are ready to quit, regardless of the shutdown. They are just, don't want to be part of the Trump administration. Okay. So the impact of the government shutdown, I mean, we've been here before. Of course, the last time we were here was 7 years ago when, who was president again? Oh, Trump. So they were running the same game. And yes, the hypocrisy, Democrats decry shutdowns when there's the prospect that Republicans will instigate one. Republicans usually blink and there isn't one. And then we just continue on spending as we have spent since the New Deal, basically. We talked to C.S. Tucker last hour about some of this with respect to the healthcare argument that Schumer and company are making. But it's pretty clear that they are the instigators here. So ostensibly, they will wear the jacket. And one of the things that Republicans have in terms of an argument is that you did have three Democrat senators, Fetterman, Mastro from Nevada, and Angus King from Maryland, from Maine, I believe, were the three that crossed over and voted voted with Republicans for the clean CR to continue operating the government and negotiating over this spending that was resized that they want restored. For more on all this, please be joined by Steve Moore, economist, author of The Trump Economic Miracle and the Plan to Unleash Prosperity Again. Stephen, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Dan, good to be with you. And by the way, for the last 30 years, you and I and others have always said that Republicans are the stupid party and the Democrats are the evil party. But in this case, I think the Democrats are the stupid and evil party. I mean, what they've done here is really outrageous. This is the Schumer shutdown, and he wanted it. I said this 2 or 3 weeks ago on your show. He wanted a shutdown of the economy. This is exactly what he was aiming for. So he made these outrageous demands. Which senator was that you were just playing that?
John Kennedy.
Was that? Oh, he does a great job of exposing reality in Washington. And so, look, they've overplayed their hand here. They're up a creek right now because I've talked to my friends over there at the White House last night. Trump is not going to blink here. He's not going to budge 1 inch. And the Democrats are going to have to fold. The fact that you had 3 Democrats in the Senate already blink means that I think this will probably last another couple of days at most, and I think the Democrats will come to their senses. But the most important thing for people to understand is we are running a $2 trillion budget deficit. We have record amounts of government spending, and the Democrats are saying we're going to shut down the government unless you give us another $1.5 trillion of spending. I don't think there are too many Americans who think that's a great idea.
Well, Right. But one of the things I want to understand is this just the government shutdown theater we've become accustomed to, or is this a little bit different this go round because of what Ross Vaught had to say about permanent layoffs and and permanent layoffs combined with apparently some 100,000, 150,000 workers that are planning to quit regardless. And boy, maybe we get to some Doge numbers here if we keep up at this pace.
Right. Well, that is the strategy, and Russ Vaught has thought this through. And by the way, the fact that we have several 100,000 federal employees who are non-essential, and that you've got a federal government that's losing $2 trillion, I think if this was a company, you'd basically say, sorry, we can't have non-essential people. We're losing money. But that's not the way Washington thinks. But that is the way Trump and Russell Vaught think. And, yeah, get rid of it. By the way, in past shutdowns, I think I've lived through about 12 to 15 of these since 1984. Do you know the government employees still get paid?
Yeah, right. Well, that's the whole point. That's why it's theater. You get back pay, basically. Right? And
anybody would love that.
And just again, I mean, the State Department, the Labor Department, the Commerce Department, the Education Department, and the EPA, a majority of their workforce is quote unquote non-essential. They're furloughed.
Yeah, right. So, get rid of them. I mean, this is called draining the swamp, folks. It's something that the American people voted for. Now, to his credit, Trump has already reduced the federal workforce by about 250,000, which is a good number. In fact, if you look at the job numbers, one of the reasons the job numbers aren't up to the level we'd like them to be is because when they when they count all the jobs, they're counting in government jobs. Well, we've cut 250,000 government jobs, which is a good thing, not a bad thing. We should really count private sector employment because that's what matters most. And the more we can cut government employment, the better.
So this is interesting. It's a bit contrarian given the zeitgeist at present, but Mark Skuzin, you know him, economist.
I know Mark, yeah.
Yeah. So in reaction to the second quarter GDP number being revised up to 3.8%, he writes, dig into the numbers, however, and you find the trade wars, in fact, wreaking economic havoc. Buried in the BEA report is a more reliable measure of the economy, gross output. Gross output revealed that economic growth is slowing to a crawl, ahead only 1.2% in real terms. If you include all transactions in wholesale and retail trade, the adjusted gross output is up only 0.3%. Overall business spending fell sharply by an annualized 5.6% in real terms. So these results are much more consistent with the weak labor market data, and they raise the specter of the R word, says Mark Skuzin.
Yeah, I don't see that. I think he's wrong. I know Mark's a friend of mine. He's got it half right and half wrong.
Okay.
He is right that that one of the mythologies of economics, and this is in every economics textbook, it's in every economic broadcast, this idea that consumers drive the economy. Right. And that's wrong. That's not what drives the economy. What drives the economy is production, not consumption. There's plenty of consumer demand in, Zimbabwe because then people don't have anything. What you need to do is be producing things. Now, he is right that business to business spending has fallen, and that's not a good sign. But what he's leaving out is that, as Larry Kudlow says every day on his show, and he's right about this, what the most important thing that drives the economy for the future is business investment. And we're seeing a boom in business investment right now. And that's one of the reasons I'm really optimistic for next year. I mean, businesses, their capital expenditures on things like machinery, R&D, building factories, those numbers are really solid.
E.J. Antoni, he was supposed to be the new Bureau of Labor stats guy, and his nomination has been pulled. What happened there?
Yeah, I just wrote a piece. EJ, by the way, is, just for full disclosure, a good friend of mine. I discovered EJ Antoni. He's amazing. He's a young superstar in economics. But there's an old saying about Washington D.C. that if you want a friend, buy a dog. And so the entire Washington establishment turned against him. And it wasn't about EJ Antoni. It was about Trump. And Trump fired the BLS numbers counter because her numbers were all wrong. Now, I think he made the mistake in saying she rigged the numbers. I don't think she rigged the numbers. I think she just was incompetent. And we're not getting accurate numbers. They overcounted the number of jobs that were created under Biden by almost 3 million. And by the way, the errors were always overestimating job creation.
Of course.
Do you think that was just a random error?
Yeah, of course. They always seem to go in the direction of their preferred party, don't they?
Exactly. So Trump fired her, and then as soon as EJ was announced, the left went after him. He became kind of he was caught in the crossfire. It was all political. EJ's it's the loss of the country. He would have been a great BLS guy. He could have really fixed that thing, but it's too bad that he's dropped out. But the good news, he's going to be working with me again in that Heritage and other places, so he'll continue to be a rising star. And the most despicable thing was that all of these other economists at places like American Enterprise Institute and Manhattan Institute and a place of Tax Foundation, they attacked him because they were jealous of him. They were jealous of his meteoric rise and his media presence because he's everywhere. He's even on TV more than I am. So jealousy is an ugly thing, and that was what this really came down to. And frankly, it's the country's loss, that he won't be in that position.
Interesting. Wanted to get your take on.
By the way, there's a little advice to people that I will give, because as you know, Dan, I've gone through that too.
Yes.
If you are ever, Dan, and I know you're going to get that call from the White House any day now.
No.
If you're offered a job for a Senate, I think you wanted to be ambassador to the Bahamas, didn't you?
Yeah, I would consider that. Yeah.
But anyway, if you're ever offered a job, folks, that requires Senate confirmation, run for the high grass as fast as you can, because it is a terrible, terrible process.
I wanted to get your take on Trump's pharmacy, Trump RX, that he unveiled yesterday with Pfizer CEO in tow. We're still not fans of price controls and this sort of mercantilist coming together of government and business, are we?
There is a bit of that under Trump. And look, I love Trump. I'm a big supporter of his. But he does have this idea that we can have government partnership with private industry and create all these products. And so that makes me nervous. Look, drug prices are too high. There's no doubt about it. We have this project we've created called, Most Favored Patient, where there are ways to bring down drug prices. It is true that it's not fair that the Europeans and the Canadians pay half what we pay in the United States for drugs, because they freeload off of our R&D, and they don't pay for any of that. And so
but we get a premium from that disparate payment, right? It's called access.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have more access to the drugs, good point, than they do. And by the way, once the drugs go generic, then the prices fall dramatically. By the way, generic prices are higher in Britain and Europe than they are here.
Right.
So, I'm going to make one point about this that's a little bit different from where you're headed, but it's a really important one. One of the villains here in terms of the high price of prescription drug prices is the FDA. As everyone knows, these drugs have to go through an FDA approval process. Mm-hmm. We have drugs that are pretty much ready to go, that dealing with cancer, MS, Parkinson's disease, epilepsy. I could go down the list. And they're promising drugs, even like terrible neurological diseases. And the FDA will not allow those to be sold in the United States because they put these in trials for years and years and years. And my feeling is like, this is America. If you want to buy something, you should be able to. Why should the federal government not allow you to let's say, provide people with an experimental drug for multiple sclerosis? I mean, why would they do that?
I agree. And I would think that the right to try that was signed by Trump in his first term would have provided some clearance for that.
It didn't solve the problem.
Obviously.
Dan, you and I were strongly supportive of that. Trump did sign the bill. You know why it hasn't really taken hold? It's done some good because the insurance companies won't
won't cover.
Insure those drugs. So they won't pay, and people pay insurance. By the way, the other big villain, while we're on the subject of the lockdown, the two most villainous groups are the Senate Democrats and the health insurance companies. Because the health insurance companies, when we did Obamacare, you know who made the most money off of Obamacare?
The big health insurance companies?
Yep. They had record profits. Their profits.
Yeah, well, they wrote Obamacare. I mean, they obviously knew what they were doing. Yeah.
Yeah. But, that's why, if we sometimes I think like Bernie Sanders is like, if they're just going to be appendages of the federal government, then let's just get rid of the insurance companies altogether. But these are strange times we're living in.
Stephen Moore, economist, author of the Trump Economic Miracle and the Plan to Unleash Prosperity Again, co-authored with Art Laffer. Steve, thanks as always.
Okay, happy Schumer shutdown day.
Yeah, right. And he joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer. Gain insight into building strong marriages and raising godly children with Focus on the Family with Jim Daly each weekday at 11:30 a.m. on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
Hi, my name is Dr. Michael Huber. During cold and flu season, a nearby cough or sneeze can trigger a familiar dread, that helpless feeling of being defenseless against an invisible viral threat. But what if you could change the narrative? What if you could fortify your body's natural defenses? This is why I developed Virago, the immune enhancement cocktail designed to give your body the upper hand. Virago is more than a supplement. It's a revolutionary liquid formula packed with 23 powerful natural nutraceuticals for rapid absorption. This unique blend is scientifically crafted to help build resilience and keep you protected. Don't just hope for good health. Make it happen with Virago. Virago and Maha, making America healthy again.
Virago. Order your bottle today online at myvirago.com and use coupon code IMMUNE to save 30%. myvirago.com. Coupon code IMMUNE.
Get pumped up, Chicago! Fall flavors have arrived at Big B Coffee. Stop by our brand new location at Lake and Wacker and grab your pick of the patch. Sip on a white pumpkin latte, a sweet foam pumpkin cold brew, or the fan favorite Chumpkin. And don't forget a fresh baked pumpkin muffin to top it off. Cozy, sweet, and full of fall. Only at Big B Coffee, 309 West Lake Street, right in the heart of downtown Chicago. Big B Coffee, brewing pumpkin perfection this season.
The following advertisement includes a celebrity impersonation.
Nothing beats the comfort of a perfectly heated home.
And when it comes to heating your home, Air Right Heating and Cooling does it the best.
And they love our country. Beautiful people.
Air Right Heating and Cooling is fast. When your furnace breaks down, they'll fix it right away.
Just like that. Big time results. No waiting around. You get the job done right. And let's face it, who doesn't love being warm, right? It's beautiful. When it's freezing, I crank up that amazing furnace. Burn, baby, burn. Trust me, you'll say, wow, I've never felt this warm in my life.
If you like keeping your hard-earned money, then contact Air Right Heating and Cooling. Tell them AM 560 sent you, and right now you'll receive $56 off any service.
Unbelievable.
Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. Air Right Heating and Cooling. Doing it right since 1959.
This is Alistair Begg, inviting you to sail with me next September 5th through the 12th, 2026, on the Deeper Faith Norwegian Fjords Cruise. If you've never been to this picturesque part of the world, the sights are magnificent, and the glacier-carved cliffs demonstrate the grandeur of God's creative handiwork. Throughout the journey, I'll be teaching from the Bible. Together we'll learn from the Scriptures, enjoy a week of fellowship and worship, and stop at several ports where we'll stroll through quaint Nordic villages. This is an opportunity to explore scenes you won't soon forget, all while forming new friendships with fellow believers from around the world. Cabins are limited, so call today at 855-565-5519 or visit deeperfaithcruise.com. 855-565-5519 or visit deeperfaithcruise.com. I hope to see you on board.
Book today at 560theanswer.com/deeperfaith.
Whether you are old or young, no one likes to lose money. The market is at an all-time high. How much risk does your portfolio really have in it? Are you worried that you could lose your hard-earned money? Call TJ Stearns in Arlington Heights at 800-640-2256 for your free risk report. Call right now and we will include a full analysis of your portfolio. Don't wait until it's too late. Call TJ Stearns, a local and longtime sponsor on AM 560. Call 800-640-2256. Call now and tell them AM 560 sent you.
At almostfreeteeth.com, they're dedicated to making smiles great again. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you could save 90% off on average to get a beautiful dental implant supported smile. Check if you qualify right now at almostfreeteeth.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 8:08, we're going to be joined by filmmaker, New York Times bestselling author Dinesh D'Souza. He's got a new movie. The Dragon's Prophecy is the film, and we'll discuss the particulars of that film with Dinesh D'Souza at 8:08. And coming up at 8:38, we'll talk to former FBI criminal profiler James Fitzgerald about the recent mass shootings. It is now 8 a.m. on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
This is a Fox News alert. A lot of the government is closed, and Republicans and Democrats blame each other.
The far left faction of Senate Democrats shut down the government because we wouldn't give them hundreds of billions of dollars for health care benefits for illegal aliens.
That's what Vice President Vance just told Fox after Democrats blocked a House-passed bill to extend government funding for 7 weeks.
Their bill, they call it clean. We call it totally partisan.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer insists provisions be added to keep health care costs from rising when Obamacare subsidies expire at the end of the year. Vance's response?
Of course, we all want to ensure that Americans have low-cost health care, so let's work together on that. You don't shut the government down. You don't take the government as a hostage because you want to engage in a negotiation about health care costs. Let's do that negotiation, but let's do it in the context of actually opening the government.
Hundreds of thousands of federal employees will be furloughed or even laid off. Some will keep working without paychecks, like law enforcement and those at airports.
Most of the workers at the FAA and the Transportation Security Administration are defined as essential, which requires them to stay on the job, even if the government closes and other federal workers are furloughed. That means more than 13,000 air traffic controllers would have to work without pay, and roughly 3,500 safety and operational support staff would be affected by furlough.
Fox's Tanya J. Powers. Social Security and Medicare payments will keep coming, and post offices will stay open, so you'll still get mail. Less than 3 weeks after Charlie Kirk was assassinated at an event at Utah Valley University, the Turning Point USA organization he founded, that his widow Erica now runs, returned to Utah last night.
More than 6,500 people packed the arena at Utah State University. Alex Clark, a TPUSA host, said she was not there to eulogize her friend, but to pass the baton on to supporters, and that Kirk was building something that would outlast him.
That's Fox's Alicia Acuna. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It is 63 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. Broadview Police Chief Thomas Mills is calling the ongoing ICE detention situation a, quote, public safety crisis, as ICE agents have been using tear gas and rubber bullets in response to recent demonstrations.
The deployment of tear gas, pepper spray, mace, and rubber bullets by ICE near the processing center in the village of Broadview is creating a dangerous situation for the community and all first responders.
Chief Mills says there are currently 3 separate criminal investigations into ICE activities since the deployment of federal officers near the Chicago area. Now, this comes after ICE arrested 11 people during a demonstration on Saturday, 5 of those facing charges. 3 of those individuals were released, while the other 2 are still being held in custody. The joint employers representing Illinois companies and workers have released a statement after the state's AFL-CIO announced it would be withdrawing from the agreed bill process. The group say the agreed bill process sets the standard for collaboration on complex issues for more than 4 decades. The joint employers say that they are disappointed that organized labor has chosen to lean into the politics of division. And a woman was transported to the hospital yesterday afternoon following an accident outside Soldier Field along the Chicago lakefront. According to reports, an SUV crashed into a wall in a loading dock outside the stadium. Officials are continuing to investigate. No word on the woman's condition. News is a service of Air Right Heating and Cooling, offering AM 560 listeners $56 off any service, including inspections. Don't wait for a heat wave for that old air conditioner to break down. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes, but time now for the AM 560 Business Beat.
I'm Charles Payne, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Wall Street will be reacting today to the employment update from payroll processing company ADP. The report takes on even more significance now that the partial government shutdown is underway, and the Labor Department will not release a monthly employment report on Friday. Nike shares are up 3% this morning. The sportswear giant saw business improve in North America in recent months. Sales were up 4%, helped by the relaunch of the Nike store on Amazon.com, though it continues to see slow sales in China. And Nike expects an impact of $1.5 billion from tariffs. Bristol-Myers Squibb and Japan's Takeda Pharmaceuticals will work together to train artificial intelligence for drug discovery and development. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Coselda. Invested in you.
Join AM 560 on Thursday, October 2nd in Glen Ellen for a conservative conversation, an evening of insight, inspiration, and ideas on how conservatives can unite around shared values to advance a common agenda. Speakers will include Pastor Lorenzo Sewell of 180 Church in Detroit, Jeannie Ives, and John Anthony, with each bringing a unique perspective on faith, policy, and community leadership. Get your tickets today at 560theanswer.com/conversation. That's 560theanswer.com/conversation.
We couldn't decide if we needed in-home care for Dad.
Right. Just some help here and there with bathing, organizing his meds, a walk through the neighborhood.
Oh, exactly. But everywhere we looked, we had a 4-hour minimum. It was more care than he needed, and it didn't make sense to spend extra for it.
Then we found Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest. No minimum hours. We were shocked.
Now a caregiver stops by once or twice a week for just an hour or two to help with the small things that make a big difference.
And Mom loves the visits. It's not just help. It's companionship.
At Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest, we understand that not every family needs round-the-clock care. We serve DuPage, Cook, Kane, Kendall, and Will counties. We conduct free in-home assessments and we guarantee compatibility. Call Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest today at 331-281-0728. Again, that's 331-281-0728. And tell them AM 560 sent you. Senior Helpers of Naperville Southwest. Senior care, only better.
It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and LifeLock is here with tips to help protect your identity. Use strong passwords, set up multi-factor authentication on your accounts, report phishing, and update your software on all your devices. And for comprehensive identity protection, LifeLock is your best choice. LifeLock not only alerts you to suspicious uses of your personal information, but also fixes identity theft, guaranteed, or your money back. So stay smart, stay safe, and stay protected with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com. Use the promo code BECK. Terms do apply.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. It's out of nowhere. Had a stroke. Super hard, obviously, for the whole family, but my dad had life insurance. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com, because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test, just a few health questions. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos, E-T-H-O-S, ethos.com/Mike.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Inbound on the Eden from Lake Cook to Montrose is 19 minutes. Getting slow on the outbound side, that's 30 minutes. The Kennedy inbound from Montrose to the Burn Interchange is 31 minutes. Outbound is 20. Now the Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, just under an hour, 51 minutes. But that crash on the inbound side that was on the ramp to get onto the Tri-State has been cleared away. Outbound is 36 minutes. Also just under an hour on the inbound Stevens Hudson from Tri-State to Lakeshore, that's 15 minutes. Outbound is 28. The Dan Ryan slows down from 95th to the Burn Interchange. Inbound is 30 minutes. Outbound 16. There is a crash on the Bishop Ford outbound at Dalton Avenue, and then on Veterans Memorial northbound at Maple Avenue, there's another accident. Traffic is a service of almostfreeteeth.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be warm with sunshine filtering through high clouds, reaching a high of 77. Tonight, expect mostly cloudy skies with a low of 59. Tomorrow, anticipate very warm conditions as clouds gradually clear for some sunshine with a high of 83. On Friday, temperatures will soar, nearing the record of 91 from 1954 under abundant sunshine with a high of 89. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So, our friend Dinesh D'Souza, best-selling author, filmmaker, podcaster, raconteur. He's got a new movie. It's called The Dragon's Prophecy. Yes, it's based on that Jonathan Cahn book. And timely, given maybe, perhaps, although I'm a skeptic, perhaps we're on the precipice of a cessation of hostilities in the Middle East, as per the joint appearance by President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu this week at the White House. Dragon's Prophecy is the name of the film, as I mentioned. And here's the little bit of the trailer.
Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon. Revelation 12:3.
Once again, an armed attack in the Middle East, but this time it's different.
October 7th was the devil's holiday.
It's very hard to believe what happened, even though I was there and seeing with my own eyes and seeing them laughing and killing and having fun with it.
Because if you don't open the door, they are going to kill you and they are going to kill me, so please open the door.
So who are the Jews? Who are the Palestinians? And whose land is it really?
Yeah, I mean, that's some of what is being argued, and many of the arguments take the form of ahistorical ones, which contrasts from this film, which makes the moral case for Israel using a biblical angle, comparing the fighting between Israel and Hamas to ancient biblical conflicts between the Israelites and the Philistines. For more on the film and other salient matters, pleased to be joined by Dinesh D'Souza. Dinesh, thanks for being with us again. Appreciate it.
Hey, it's always a pleasure. Great to be here. I'm very excited about this new film. You know, it's a departure from me in the sense that my earlier films have, in one way or another, been about the meaning of America. But here we go beyond the borders. We go beyond the political. There's plenty of politics in the film, but this is also a film about spirituality, about revival, and about biblical archaeology and a hint of biblical prophecy.
Well, you know, before we get into that, you know, there is this argument that many are attempting to make, and it's into a bit of a headwind these days, but it bears some repeating. It used to be sort of accepted as part of conservative thought, but I think that's changed a little bit. And that is that, you know, attacks in Israel and the Middle East by Islamist terrorists are really attacks on America. They're attacks on the West in general, that we are both representatives of Western civilization, that this is a country founded on Judeo-Christian values. And so we have this inextricable link with Israel. But that is much more in controversy on the right than it used to be, wouldn't you say?
Yes, I would. I do think that some of the American adventurism of the past 30 years has made people very allergic to these generic claims that we need to fight over there in order to protect them from coming over here. Now, I do think it holds true in the case of Israel far more than it holds true, for example, for Ukraine, which is far more distant, much less connected to anything that's important to us. The global jihadis are not based in Gaza. In fact, even Hamas is not operating directly out of Gaza. They would not have been able to orchestrate these attacks if they had not been cooked up in places like Sudan and Yemen and Turkey and Iran. So there is a much larger jihadi movement here, and Hamas is its tool. So all of this is kind of exposed in the film. But the film then goes on to ask much larger questions like, who are the original inhabitants of this land? You know, think about it. How do you get a piece of land in the world anywhere at all? You either get it because you were there first, or you get it by some sort of negotiation or treaty, or you get it by conquest. And the remarkable thing is, Israel checks all three boxes. The Jews were there first, going back to the time of David, perhaps even further back to Abraham, 4,000 years ago. The Jews got it by treaty from the United Nations after World War II, and the Jews have fought three wars, 48, 67, and 73, so they have held the land by conquest. So they have the strongest title of any group to that land compared to any other title anywhere else in the world, including the United States of America.
Right, and so the feeling, of course, is that we've been on this hamster wheel for at least the last 50 years. I mean, maybe going back to 1948. And I guess the question is, taking a much more expansive look like you do in this film, what can we learn additionally about, what the last 60 years have been and where we are today?
I think one of the things we're realizing, and Charlie Kirk's assassination has highlighted this, is that underneath our political wars is a moral struggle, and underneath that is a spiritual war. But people who say that don't often specify, like, who's fighting, who are the combatants, what are they fighting over, what is the stake. And we introduced the rather outrageous idea that the fight is really, you can say between good and evil, but I would say even more directly between God and the devil. So when I use the phrase the dragon's prophecy, the dragon, which is an image out of the book of Revelation, is a reference to the devil himself. Now, the idea here is this: the devil can never defeat God. And so what the devil does is he picks on the things that are important to God and tries to ruin them to get his revenge on God. So in Genesis 1, like, why does the devil pick on Adam and Eve? Like, what have they done to him? Nothing, but they are God's cherished creation. So he's like, let me ruin them and I'll get a last laugh on God. And so the question to think about, and it's posed as a question, is it the case that because the Jews are, quote, the chosen people of God, therefore the devil goes, let me ruin the Jews. Let me run them out of Israel from the river to the sea. Let me take their most holy place, which is the site of the Solomonic temple, and let me stick an Islamic victory arch on top of that called the Dome of the Rock and have an adjoining mosque right there. So it's almost like the devil is occupying the holiest site of Judaism and Christianity. So all these like rich and provocative ideas are in the film, and then I authenticate the Bible with biblical archaeology, showing I'm not trying to prove the miracles or vindicate the theology of the Bible, but I want to defend its historicity and show that the people and events of the Bible are true and they're real.
And so what's your handle on the prospects for some sort of lasting détente in the Middle East, given this dynamic you're describing?
Well, I think that I'm constantly amazed at the audacity of Trump. He will say something that on the face of it seems downright absurd. Gaza should be a Riviera.
Yes.
And everybody goes, what an idiot. How can he say something so preposterous? But really, Trump is a construction guy. He looks at the place, it's full of rubble. And he goes, I kind of see, buildings here and streets and clean apartments and people going to work every day and safe streets. why can't we at least offer them that? They may not take it. They may be so twisted and so indoctrinated and so much the product of this hateful ideology that they may refuse that road, even though it's quite obviously a better road for their children and grandchildren. So Trump, I think, is creating a framework. But, I think the roots of this go deep. And as I said, the global jihadi ideology, I mean, look, this is not even confined to the Middle East. They're trying to infiltrate Australia and Canada and Europe. Here in Texas, where I live, I mean, mosques seem to be coming up overnight. You've got these Islamists who are running for school boards. They want to make 100 Ilhan Omars. So they are on the march globally. And Israel, I think, is rightly the little Satan in the picture. We, the United States, are quite definitely the big Satan, and the jihadis understand it.
Yeah, I mean, Dearborn, Michigan, Hamtramck, Michigan, and also, too, I mean, Africa, we don't talk about this as much as perhaps we should, but the slaughter of Christians going on in Nigeria, in Congo, I mean, in terms of the global jihadists.
And the reason for that is that the Muslims really have only one way of multiplying, and that is having 7 kids. But the Christians are the ones who are actually making the conversions. And so you have these African countries that are like 40% Muslim, 40% Christian. It's going to go one way or the other way. And the Muslims are like, we got to stop it. We got to use beheading. We got to get these Christians because we don't think the world will take notice. And incredibly, the West has been blind and deaf and looking the other way and focused on the Israeli genocide in Gaza and not paying attention to the Islamic genocide everywhere else.
Now, I saw that you posted on X some of the criticism you're receiving, and the sort of conspiracies that you're the target of, suggesting that you're on the payroll of Israel, or you're so some sort of like secret Zionist or something like this in terms of the basis to do this film. What's your response to those who are suggesting that you're compromised, you're a tool of the Jewish lobby, as a favorite phrase, that sort of thing?
Well, when, Ben Shapiro or Laura Loomer, or one of these people, Josh Hammer, talks about Israel, we see these voices on the right basically go, well, yeah, you're a Jew. That's why you're saying that. This kind of discourse was unacceptable a generation ago, but it's evidently becoming more acceptable. Now, I'm not a Jew. I'm a Christian. I'm America first. I don't have any dog in this fight. I've never made a movie here. I haven't even really addressed the Israel issue before. I became enchanted with biblical archaeology about 3 years ago, and so we've donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to biblical archaeology in Jerusalem. So, I'm not on Israel's payroll. You could say, be more accurate to say Israel is on my payroll. So because I have this kind of independence and credibility, these guys are going after me, trying to insinuate that I'm sort of in the pay of Mossad. Nothing could be more preposterous, and I think it just shows why the film is powerful, and this kind of anti-Semitic wing that's emerging on the right is afraid of it. And so their idea is, let's try to throw some mud at Dinesh and make it seem that he's compromised in some way, which is obviously not the case.
Yeah, what is your threat assessment on that anti-Semitic wing that is emerging on the right, as you mentioned? I mean, some have very big followings, some and inexplicably to me, frankly, a few of them I understand, a few of them I don't, but there are brand names within conservative circles.
Well, it's or normally I would dismiss it as a kind of weird eccentricity. People who, like Tucker, built his reputation on Fox News for taking on the Fox people, for being politically incorrect, for speaking out on so many issues. And I'm an admirer of that Tucker. But now he's sort of veered into this new lane. I think what's happened is we've got a lot of young people today who are restless, who are angry, who are desperate, who don't see a life for themselves as good as their parents did. And these people are seething. And I think what's particularly insidious is that there are people on our side that are using this angst to blame the Jews. And they're not even doing it directly. They're doing it more in the form of, quote, I'm asking questions, or in the case of Candace, I'm conducting a personal investigation.
Yeah.
The investigation is always bogus. It never produces a single reliable fact or arrive at any conclusion. And the moment that the premise is sunk, a new insinuation takes its place. So I'm very disturbed. People I know, by the way, I've spoken at Candace's events. Tucker and I did a speaking tour last year together in Australia. So this is awkward for me. But on the other hand, I don't want to be the guy who keeps silent about it. I think it could actually cause a lot of harm, not just to the country, not just making Jews feel unsafe in this country, but also fracturing the MAGA coalition and hurting the Trump agenda.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you, and I've addressed it as well. And I mean, I love Dennis Prager of his many formulations. The people who use the term the Jews. Dennis Prager saying, I'm a Jew, George Soros is a Jew, we have nothing in common. There isn't the Jews. And you would think conservatives would start from that premise of looking at the individual as the unit of analysis and the belief system and not categorizing people by identity. That's what the left does, which is why I find the arguments being made, in addition to being, evidence-free and conspiracy-based, so flimsy and unworthy.
And Dan, you can apply that exact same logic to Jesus, right? The Jews killed Christ. Well, Caiaphas and the high priests were instrumental in all that, but Jesus had a lot of followers. And what did the followers do? They took up the cause after his death. They're the ones who made the first converts. They're the ones who went, even when Paul, who was the apostle to the Gentiles, went to Greece and Asia Minor, he was mainly preaching in synagogues. So these were the first Judeo-Christians, if you can use that term.
Right.
Hey, Dan, if I can say so, the website is thedragonsprophecyfilm.com. The movie's in theaters next week, October 6th and 8th, streaming October 9th. But you got to get the theater tickets from the website. So it's thedragonsprophecyfilm.com.
Dinesh D'Souza, he is an acclaimed filmmaker, New York Times bestselling author. The new film, The Dragon's Prophecy, the website again, thedragonsprophecyfilm.com, thedragonsprophecyfilm.com. Limited release in theaters October 6th and 8th. Then streaming on Salem Now, at Salem Now on October 9th. TheDragonsProphecyFilm.com for tickets. Dinesh, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Hey, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
And Dinesh joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
The anniversary of Israel's October 7th, 2023 terrorist attack is now upon us, and on this date, the world will come together to honor the 1,200 souls murdered and remember those still held in captivity. It's a day to stand with family members whose grief is inconsolable. What happened 2 years ago also unleashed attacks on Jewish people everywhere. These anti-Semitic threats and deadly acts of violence are immense, and they're constant. And that's why the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews created Flags of Fellowship. Now, a growing movement, Flags of Fellowship, is a bold way to stand up for what you believe, a way to tangibly support the people of Israel and Jews everywhere simply by planting an Israeli flag. You can join this historic movement by giving just $25 to help plant flags to support the Fellowship's work of saving and rebuilding lives in Israel and wherever God's people are in need. To learn more, visit ifcj.org. That's ifcj.org.
You've heard me talk about Northridge Prep for years, but now I want you to hear from one of the recent graduates. His name is TJ Gorman. He just graduated second in his class in Marine Corps basic training. This is what he said. I was blessed to attend Northridge, not only for the education, but for the values and principles my mentors instilled within me. The school taught us what it meant to be a leader and to lead through example, hard work, humility, and empathy. I thank God for Northridge. That's what makes Northridge Prep great for young men. The students are called to excellence to become true leaders. And these boys want to go to school each day. They love Northridge because they can be free to learn, to grow, and to be challenged. There's a real spirit of adventure on campus that you've just got to experience for yourself to appreciate it. For 50 years, Northridge Prep has partnered with parents like no other school in the Chicagoland area. Today, in our nation, we need more Northridge graduates to lead the way as men of intellect and character who love God, guys like TJ Gorman, men who put their values first. Northridge Prep has an open house on Sunday, October 19th at 1 p.m. for boys in grades 6 through 12. You can register at northridgeprep.org. Again, that Northridge Prep Open House is Sunday, October 19th, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and register at their website, northridgeprep.org.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6745. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6745. That's 800-575-6745. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
If you need custom boxes and crates, expert packing and crating, import-export transloading with heavy lift capability, the DC Group delivers. It all started 51 years ago with DC Export and Domestic Packing, the hard work of founders Dominic and Carol Cochamiglio. Their family's desire to exceed customer expectations, backed by an incredible team and loyal customers, is now driving expansion. From their humble roots in a garage-sized building to 100,000 square feet in the Chicago area, 45,000 in Greenville, and a new Houston facility, they're coast to coast. And their sister company, DC Transport, handles everything from container drayage to super heavy haul loads across North America since 1991. Whether it's packing and crating, transloading, transportation service, or trade shows, the DC Group delivers. Those that attended FabTech 2025, we'd love to hear from you. Get your quote now at dcexport.com. That's dcexport.com, your trusted logistics partner.
It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and LifeLock is here with tips to help protect your identity. Use strong passwords, set up multi-factor authentication on your accounts, report phishing, and update your software on all your devices. And for comprehensive identity protection, LifeLock is your best choice. LifeLock not only alerts you to suspicious uses of your personal information, but also fixes identity theft, guaranteed, or your money back. So stay smart, stay safe, and stay protected with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com. Use the promo code BECK. Terms do apply.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up at 8:38, we'll talk to our friend and retired FBI criminal profiler Jim Fitzgerald. Well, and we'll talk a little bit about the FBI and that Comey indictment, but also about the seeming increase in political violence and what the FBI can do about it. That's at 8:38. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 64 degrees in Chicago on AM 560, The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the AM 560 newsroom. Not too bad for our Chicagoland forecast today. Partly cloudy skies this morning. More sunshine this afternoon as we hit a high of 74. The Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights is responding after federal authorities raided a building in Chicago's South Shore neighborhood early yesterday morning. Initial reports indicate at least 40 people were taken into custody from that building, which was believed to be housing Venezuelan migrants. The ICIRR called it, quote, part of a prolonged attack on Chicago communities by President Donald Trump and other MAGA leaders. Hundreds of protesters marched in downtown Chicago yesterday, shutting down portions of westbound Wacker Drive. Several groups participated in that, quote, emergency protest against ICE. Governor J.B. Pritzker said at least 1,500 people have been taken into custody as part of the ICE operation. News is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. What if you could save an average of 90% for dental implants and get 100% of your smile back? With a Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO or FEP ADP, it is possible. Check if you qualify at almostfreeteeth.com. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Hugh Hewitt has a plan to fix health care.
It's got to go through regular order. They got to talk about how to fix Obamacare, and when they fix Obamacare, they have to extend tax credits for those who are caught in Obamacare because they lost their job, they lost their plan, they didn't keep their doctor, they didn't keep their plan as President Obama promised. Obamacare is a nightmare and a disaster, but we don't want to leave people on the raft floating out to sea.
The Hugh Hewitt Show, afternoons at 2, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
Hi, Dan Proft here. Data shows that boys make up more than 1/3 of those exploited in the sex trade. However, there are virtually no services available to male victims and survivors of trafficking and exploitation. They are often overlooked, ignored, and left without support. For 35 years, Emmaus has been on the front lines of an issue most of us can hardly imagine, helping men and boys in Chicago escape the nightmare of human trafficking and rebuild their lives. On Friday, November 1st, you're invited to attend an unforgettable evening at the Emmaus 35th Anniversary Gala at Fisherman's Inn in Elburn, Illinois. Together, they'll celebrate faith, freedom, and restoration with a beautifully catered dinner, an inspiring program, and a silent auction, all to support the mission of rescuing and restoring survivors. This is your chance to do something that truly matters. Reserve your seat today, or if you can't attend, make a life-changing donation at streets.org. That's streets.org. Emmaus is restoring lives. Let's help them keep going. Visit streets.org.
If you're getting divorced, you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Marcy, 38, homemaker, no income, with 3 kids under 10, recently filed for divorce. Marcy's soon-to-be ex needed the equity out of their marital home to purchase a new home, so Marcy called Team Hochberg after being told by other lenders she couldn't refinance until the divorce was final. Wrong. I helped Marcy refinance with her parents co-signing because she didn't have a job and wasn't receiving child or spousal support. Let's review. Marcy needed to refinance her soon-to-be ex off the mortgage and give him half the home's equity to buy a home and was told it couldn't be done. And I helped Marcy refinance. If you're getting divorced and want mortgage advice from a lender who can empathize with your situation, give us a call now at 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. That's 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. Lower.com, equal housing lender, and MLS 112-4061.
Are you tired of exposing your retirement to stock market risk? How would you like the potential to participate in credited interest from market indexed returns and limit the downside? Join Mark Kohler for the Retirement and Income Radio Show, Sunday afternoons at 3. You can also call Mark now for your complimentary customized Retirement and Income Kit and Retirement and Income Book at 844-619-SAFE. Mark Kohler, protecting wealth since 1990. That's 844-619-7233.
The Dinesh D'Souza Podcast.
This is the important thing to recognize about Trump is he's a very transactional guy. Trump will impose a penalty, and if you come to him and say, well, let's make a deal. This is the actual opposite of socialism. This is called cutting a deal to make something work. And I think that's all that goes through Trump's mind.
Subscribe to the Dinesh D'Souza Podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Inbound on the Eden from Lake Cook to Montrose is 16. Outbound is 25. The Kennedy inbound from Montrose to the Burn interchange is 48 minutes. Outbound 23. And just under an hour inbound on the Eisenhower from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 57 minutes. Outbound is 30. But getting better on the Stevenson. Inbound from Tri-State to Lakeshore is 45. Outbound is 24. The Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn interchange is 39. Outbound is 12. Watch out, there's a car fire on the Tri-State southbound at Franklin Avenue. It is jammed as 2 right lanes are blocked. This report is sponsored by ExpressPros.com. Exhausted with applying for jobs online and never hearing back? With Express Employment Professionals, experts in your community are dedicated to helping you find a job. With more than 870 locations, there's always an office in your area. Start at ExpressPros.com to find an office near you. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National National Weather Service.
Today will be warm with sunshine filtering through high clouds, reaching a high of 77. Tonight, expect mostly cloudy skies with a low of 59. Tomorrow will be very warm as clouds gradually clear, allowing some sun to shine with a high of 83. By Friday, temperatures will soar, nearing the record of 91 from 1954 under abundant sunshine with a high of 89. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Jan Proft here. Go back to a piece that Alyssa Finley wrote in the Journal over the weekend, where she asked the question, did pot make the Dallas ICE shooter psychotic? I'm talking about the heavy drug use here. She writes, many who knew the shooter didn't say he didn't seem especially political. He's more interested in marijuana and video games. Increasing studies show that the use of marijuana, especially at high potency, is associated with violent behavior, schizophrenia, psychosis, and suicidal thoughts, not to mention heart attacks and strokes. Those associations hold when researchers control for demographics, mental and other illnesses, and use of other drugs. Our friend Alex Berenson wrote a book about it. Correlation doesn't prove causation, she quickly notes, which is true. But the primary factors that scientists look at to demonstrate a causal effect, consistency of strength of association, dose response, plausible biologic mechanism, coherence between lab and observational finding, and experimental evidence, all suggest cannabis use can trigger psychosis and violent inclinations. As a teenager, the Dallas ICE shooter often posted on Reddit forum for cannabis users. In April of 2016, he pled guilty to a felony count of trafficking marijuana. The following year, he moved to Washington State, one of the first states to legalize cannabis for recreational use, to work on a pot farm. The farm's manager, Ryan Sanderson, told the New York Post, he was all about the weed. He wanted to be part of the scene. He lived in his car while he helped. There are people who work and there are people who go through the motions. He was one of those guys. He didn't work that hard, probably because he was too high. She goes on to note something we've noted on this show before. It's just the science. Cannabis-induced psychosis is a well-documented psychiatric disorder, more common among people who use pot at a young age and suffer mental illness. THC, the psychoactive ingredient, gets sopped up by the brain's fatty deposits and can alter its chemistry. That differentiates it from alcohol, which washes out of the body after a few hours. She also notes, Alyssa Finley in her piece, the transgender man who shot up that Catholic church, Annunciation Catholic Church, blamed his pot habit. Gender and weed effed up my head, he wrote in a note found by investigators. I wish I could stop vaping, but I can't. If I could stop vaping, I could stop myself from doing this attack, but I just don't want to. Mass shooters, other mass shooters have also been found to be heavy pot users. Plenty of other examples. So it's one of the things that we talked about last time Jim Fitzgerald was on the show, when we're talking about some of these mass shooters and you see some similarities in terms of the profile. Do we start building a profile on people that are gender dysphoric combined with a toxicology profile? Are they heavy marijuana users, other drugs? In point of fact, there is reporting out of that in the case of the Mormon church shooting in Michigan, the individual who killed 4 people and wounded 8, and set that church on fire. Not only did he have animus towards the Church of Latter-day Saints, and maybe that has something to do with a personal relationship he had with a woman when he was in Utah who was a member of the church, unclear. But there are other reports from people who knew him that he was a heavy drug user. I have not read details of what that alleged heavy drug use was, but to the point. James Fitzgerald is a retired FBI special agent, criminal profiler from the Unabomber case. He's also served as a consultant for the TV show Criminal Minds and is the author of the series A Journey to the Center of the Mind. James, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Hey, Dan, good to be here. And I guess nowadays, since the last week, you throw in was their mother taking Tylenol when they were pregnant. So who knows? But I brought up the pot topic a few years ago with you and other media outlets. The brain is not formed well into the 20s. We kind of know a person's 20 years of age and beyond that. And it seems, and I'm not a scientist, I don't study these things full time, but the general reports that you just cited that I've read, it definitely screws with the brain, certainly in its formative years. And how does this play into these young men, usually young white men, who are heavily involved in smoking marijuana, whether it's an addiction or not? Who knows if you're physically addicted to marijuana, but it certainly seems to be psychologically addictive. And then it leads to these bad behaviors. And the worst of the kinds are when they kill other people. Of course, they kill themselves or just become zombies and game all day and go on Discord sites and argue with people about nothing. Who knows? But I have a feeling if a serious study is done from my former profiling unit as well as others, of all these types of shooters over the last dozen years or so, including the trans ones you mentioned, you're going to see pot smoking as a common denominator. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't.
So it seems to me, though, that the only way to really prevent these sorts of individuals who have these problems, drug use, mental illness, isolation, some combination of the two, is, somebody intercedes when there is sort of the first indication that this is someone prone to violence, whether it's violence to exact a personal vendetta or whether it's violence that is political in orientation because of some radicalization that occurred or some target that was brought into focus in a group setting. I mean, you can profile this because we see these common attributes, but then of course it's a small percentage of even people that have those shared traits and shared interests that go on to commit any crimes, much less mass shootings. So it just seems like it has to be, as soon as somebody suggests that violence is the answer to whatever the identified problem is, that's when somebody has got to move on that person.
Well, they should, and it should be a family member that contacts law enforcement and at least gets this person in the system. I know with the Florida school shooter years ago, that was he was reported to the FBI. Nothing was done. I wasn't very happy about that. But at least get these people in the system somehow, get them interviewed, have some kind of an intervention perhaps with them. And of course, not all of them turn violent. And Dan, mix in there, these are most likely incels. These are guys that, they don't date the kind of women they want. It's not the women's fault, of course, but these are friggin' potheads. And what woman want to date some guy like this with zero future ahead of him? But I've going back to Kaczynski, and I was, it was years later that the term incel sort of came popular. But I was one of the first people to say, yeah, I think he was an incel too, because he just never had a serious woman in his life. And you'll see sort of a contraindicator to these shooters, be them trans and whoever they would date in their transitory stages or not, but very few of them actually are involved in any kind of serious relationship. I know the Charlie Kirk shooter had some kind of a furry thing going. Who knows? Maybe the litter box wasn't clean that day and got him upset. I have no idea. But these guys are usually not involved in relationships, which also doesn't. I think young men need sometimes a woman in their life or a partner to, in fact, sort of bring down some of the more violent tendencies or stupid tendencies. And that seems to be another box that's checked, if you will, or maybe unchecked, no serious relationship in their life.
Yeah.
And this spot had to go and kill people.
Yeah. It's just sort of a cultural commentary. It's not really a solution. But I mean, we used to understand that women were supposed to be a civilizing influence in society, right? I mean, that's...
except that they have blue hair.
Well, yeah. I mean, some of them that we see outside ICE facilities, less so. I concede the point. Did you have any perspective on either of the mass shootings that happened this weekend with military veterans, the one in Michigan I just mentioned, and the one in North Carolina? And here again, how does this guy have a weapon? What did the VA know about this guy? Was he getting any sort of treatment for mental health issues? Because, this is a guy who was public in the sense that he filed legal complaints that were unintelligible and contained all kinds of conspiracy theories that were not even fully formed. And he's representing himself pro se. I mean, just because somebody's a little bit off center and does that sort of thing, avails themselves of the courts, doesn't make him necessarily a public safety threat. But, you start to put some pieces together and maybe you say, this guy needs to be, as you said, spoken with.
Intervention of some sorts. Yeah. And I mean, it was bizarre. We've had sort of a series of trans shooting young men, potheads that fit in certain categories. Then over this weekend alone, within about 12 hours, we had 2 vets, 3 lives in North Carolina, 4 in Michigan, and who knows, or maybe more if they don't survive their hospital stay. So, yeah, what's up with that? It seems both were pre-planned to some degree. And, my son's a vet, and I know hundreds of vets over my life. This is not a persistent problem throughout, our military, certainly during or after, but occasionally we do have people that come on board. I remember I worked with a company after I retired from the Bureau. Long story, very short. We were contacted by a military psychologist and say, hey, can you guys help us put a database together where we could search all the emails out there for different kinds of violent or vitriolic sort of language. And we put together a dictionary of about 200 words just to begin with, murder, kill, frustration, anger, all these things. And the military was considering buying this database to search all the emails of their military people because they basically own the email system. And we were actually moving ahead with this. All of a sudden, this captain came back to me, the psychologist said, no, can't do it anymore. They pulled the funds for this. Oh, okay. And I think that would have been a very interesting tool. Now, these guys are out of the military. I'm not sure that would have worked, but we certainly would have had possibly some indications from any emails they were doing during the times when they served. And we still have people active duty that sometimes do stupid things like this. So I would like to see some kind of, and I'm a big First Amendment guy and certainly Second Amendment, but some way to sort of track these things that if certain words are hit on repeatedly, let's at least go knock on the door with a friendly smile. Hey, can we talk? Can you come into the office? And let's see what this, what burning issues this person has. But many of them are grievance collectors. They're injustice collectors. These are terms psychologists have coined over the years that every little last slight or misfortune that happened to them, they just keep inside of them. It foments inside until finally they just snap. So the predictability is difficult to do, but I think there are some steps we could take. I just mentioned one of them, some kind of a database that people in the military could review. Obviously, there's algorithms that could pick up these terms. Wouldn't be people reading every single email. Google does it, Facebook and Instagram do it, and they know what we watch and what we want to hear about and what ads we get. I think it could be done by the military also.
Before we let you go, I did have to get your reaction to the indictment of former FBI Director Jim Comey. I just was curious, maybe I know you keep in touch with guys you used to work with at the Bureau and stuff, and what the general reaction is to the federal government moving on him.
No one in my circle, and it's an extended circle, seems to be overly concerned about it. Of course, due process is innocent until proven guilty, all that stuff. But as most of my friends agree, you look up the word hubris in the dictionary, it tends to be Jim Comey's picture right next to that word. So, whatever happens to him happens. I know Pat Fitzgerald, no relation, his attorney.
Mm-hmm.
I actually worked with both of them in the Southern District of New York on a few bank robbery cases back in the late 80s, early 90s. So I know both of them. Pat Fitzgerald's a very good attorney. Comey he's who he was. And but I have. Okay.
One's a very good attorney. The other is who he is. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So he deserves this. I'm glad they beat the statute of limitations. There are other charges that could have come against him, but of course the 5-year time frame or whatever it was has surpassed. So I have no problem with this, and he brought this upon himself. I don't feel sorry at all. I was going over my notes, Dan, from back in the day, 2018, 2019. I talked to you about, Mueller and Comey and everything going on here. And this is not a new This is nothing new for us to discuss. Here we are 4-5 years later discussing Comey again. But again, you bring this stuff down on yourself. I don't feel sorry for you at all.
What about Chris Wray and the revelation that there were some 274 FBI agents or assets in and around the Capitol on January 6th?
I need more information on that. That's bothersome. And why didn't that just come out in his testimony? So again, then we probably have 3.5 or more years for or close to 5 for Chris Wray to be charged. I just don't know. Some agents may have been sent once the alleged riot, allegedly started to hey guys, get out there and just supervise, find out what you can. That may be the majority of the agents who were sent out there, really not prepared for that. I was a former police officer. I had riot training. I think I would know what to do, at least with my nightstick. But we don't have nightsticks in the FBI. So yeah, I think the majority were probably there, as a response. What I want to know is the assets, and you said agents and assets is two different things, and I'd like to know the exact number of assets, which to me has never been clearly answered, even by Wray under oath. And perhaps someday he could be facing some of the same issues that Comey is right now.
Yeah, but I mean, but his lack of forthrightness during testimony before Congress, leads one to believe that there were things that he didn't want the public to know about what he okayed on January 6th. And so, it's hard to give the FBI the benefit of the doubt.
Well, and I'm still interested in January 5th and the Phantom bomber and what the FBI may have known about that, not collectively with everyone, but if there's some rogue element group there. I'm not saying they planned it or coordinated it, but I have a feeling there may be more information out there than we're presently being told. And I hope that this present administration digs that stuff out.
James Fitzgerald is a retired FBI special agent, criminal profiler from the Unabomber case. He also served as a consultant for the TV show Criminal Minds, and he's the author of the series A Journey to the Center of the Mind. Jim, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
All right, Dan, you're welcome.
And Jim Fitzgerald joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer. At Signature Bank, going the distance for business banking customers is what we do every day. We understand that business owners have a strategic mission, a drive to succeed, a plan for growth, and don't have time to wait for a bank to respond. With Signature Bank, you not only have a banking partner that has roots right here in Chicago, but our decisions are made locally too. Signature Bank knows that when you have a question or problem about your business, you want answers. You need someone who will pick up the phone or respond to your text. You need someone who is always there for you. That's Signature Bank. We are a team that wants to get to know you and your business. Want to be Signature Bank's next success story? Give us a call today at 773-467-5630 or visit us online at signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
Hi, this is Sean Thompson. When you take your grandkids to Disney, do they know what's in your investment portfolio? Do they even care? They're busy having a great time, and you're busy making memories. At Alpha Wealth Group, Tom Fortino understands the nuts and bolts of retirement planning. The investments, the stock market, taxes, Social Security, Medicare, and much more. But think about it. What are you really trying to do here? Is your goal to beat the S&P, or is your goal to make memories with your family? At Alpha Wealth Group, their goal is to give you the confidence to spend in retirement without the fear of running out of money. Call Tom Fortino and the team at Alpha Wealth Group to learn more. You can do it today. Call 630-864-6711. The number again, 630-864-6711. To schedule a no-obligation consultation. You can do it today online as well at alphawealthgroup.com. That's alphawealthgroup.com.
How safe is your retirement? War is everywhere, debt continues to skyrocket, and the dollar is losing purchasing power. The value of the dollar is falling fast. That's why more and more people are converting their IRA or 401k to a gold and silver IRA to protect their retirement. In 2025, both gold and silver have risen an impressive 29%, and many experts project even bigger gains ahead. Take action now. Convert some of your IRA or 401k to a gold and silver IRA with Lear Capital. Call 800-889-3070 for your free precious metals guide and IRA transfer kit. And with a qualified purchase, get up to $15,000 in bonus gold or silver deposited directly into your precious metals IRA. Lear Capital, the nation's leader in precious metals for 28 years. Call today at 800-889-3070. That's 800-889-3070, 800-889-3070.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, Dan Proft here. We close it out with a treatise on longevity. What's the key? Well, maybe Sister Renee from Youngstown, Ohio knows. She's 105, just celebrated her 105th birthday. And what did she do on her 105th birthday? Played around to golf with her friends.
In Northeast Ohio, a heaven-sent hobby for Sister Renee Parman. Years now since she first got onto the green, Sister Renee is spending this day, her 105th birthday, on the fairway.
It's a wonderful place to be, very meditative place.
Sister Renee became a nun in the 1940s, but it wasn't until she was in her 40s that she first took to golfing. Her friend, she says, got her in the habit.
I drove the cart, and they said to me, well, why don't you take a chance and just, come on, do it yourself there. I said, what do I do? They said, you hit the ball. That was my only instructions that I've ever received.
Through the decades, she has stayed the course, on the course, every Friday with her friends.
She's a great role model, I think, for all golfers. I mean, to me, it proves how long you can golf and do it as a sport.
5 years ago, in fact, on her 100th birthday, her friends got together, giving her a pandemic-friendly mini golf course celebration. Back on the big course now these days, getting guidance from her friends when she needs it, and guidance from her faith. Always.
I love it. I love to do it. And I think it's a wonderful exercise. And I think it's one of the things that's kept me going as well as I have.
Happy 105th, Sister Renee.
Yeah, I guess the key to longevity is not necessarily playing golf, but enjoying playing golf. And this is where Sister Renee and I part company. Although I can't imagine having to play golf for another half century. So, all right, thanks for joining us on another edition of Chicago's Morning Answer. Back tomorrow with more. It is now 9 a.m. AM 560 WIND Chicago.
This is a Fox News alert. Hundreds of thousands of federal workers put in limbo as the government shuts down. I'm Dave Anthony.
The last time the government shut down, it was December of 2018. It lasted 35 days, the longest in U.S. history.
Fox's Griff Jenkins at the Capitol, where Senate Democrats blocked passing a House-approved bill to provide 7 weeks of government funding.
What comes next is a little unclear. Just moments ago, we caught up with Speaker Mike Johnson. Here's what he had to say.
They decided that giving free health care to illegal aliens is a higher priority, apparently, than keeping vital services going for the American people. That's clearly what's happening here.
Speaker Johnson also told me that he's open to negotiate with Democrats on health care tax credits, but not while the government is shut down.
Later this morning, the Senate plans more votes to try again to pass funding, but Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says the Republicans are to blame, refusing to negotiate with him on health care.
There was no input from Democrats. Not a single line in their bill had input from Democrats.
Now, the shutdown affects a lot of federal employees. Some could even be laid off. Others remain working without paychecks.
Mail, Social Security checks, and student loan bills are still being delivered. Airports are running. Those workers are considered essential and are expected to show up unpaid for now. Food inspections continue. Internal Revenue Service employees stay on the job for at least 5 business days because of special funding passed in 2022. Tariff revenues still being collected. The Labor Department will not be releasing new economic data like jobs reports.
That's Fox's Chris Foster. Federal law enforcement will continue in the shutdown, though the protests against immigration